Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geeky Geezers. Yay! This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hey there, how you doing? Bringing you all your weekly dose of geekiness, so that you don't have to follow all the other outlets that you don't like, that you think are just putting out made up stories. We'll break them down for you.
Oh, and I'm Aged Boomer if I didn't say so already.
Well, I hope they know who the host is. This is your channel that they came to.
What you sipping on?
I am sipping on Diet Dr. Pepper just because that's what Netter handed me, and I'm okay with that.
I have a cherry Coke here. I haven't opened it yet though, but I will soon. I brushed my teeth a little while ago though, so I don't necessarily want to make.
Oh yeah. That
I went to Cheddar's for the first time tonight. Ever been there?
Yeah.
I got
Cheddar's. No, I've been to Checkers, but not Cheddar's.
It's a chain. I got the baby back ribs. It was very nice.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good.
I am cooking a late dinner, so I may step away from the chat, but I won't miss any links. If I do, please let me know. You're not allowed to eat during my stream.
I was going to say we just don't pay Stephen Otten enough. We really don't. We have to give him 100% raise, Agent Boomer. That's what I'm saying. And special credit if you go and check that retro blasting stream that I linked you to, buddy. Check it out.
Hello, everyone. Wishing you geezers an amazing stream. Rest in peace, Cindy Williams and Melinda Dillon. Oh,
yeah.
Did we miss somebody?
Yeah, Melinda Dillon. Actually, I don't know if it was
she the Boar Queen? Is that the one everything's talking about? On that last season of Star Trek, I'm wondering. Okay.
No. She was the mom on what's it called? The Christmas Story. She was the one that wasn't in the sequel, right?
Yes, that's
right. And now we're all kind of speculating it was because she was sick. Yeah, she actually died January 9th, but I guess people are just starting to put out the news about it or something. I don't know.
Gather round and bask in the warmth of the Geeky Geezers. You'll thank yourself tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a little weird. That's like Tom King territory. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, we'll get into the whole Tom King thing. Let me tell you.
Tom King. I have my own theories about how they should. We'll get into it soon enough.
Yeah.
Big Al, share the link. I got a hi, sweetie, from Netter. Welcome, Netter. Joshua B. Thank you. Zootopia, welcome. All right. And anybody else? Where's
Horizon
Birdman
Talker,
here? Where's Birdman? Gap After Dark. Hello, Agent Boomer, Troy Pacelli, Netter.
Hey, how's it going,
welcome.
buddy? Good to see ya.
Okay, so
right.
lot of news to cover this week. A lot of it concerning a certain comic book line.
Oh gosh, and you know what? I mean, I'm almost at the point where I'm getting a little fatigued, and I'm the one that keeps pushing to talk about it too. So I'm not blaming anyone but myself here. Don't be mistaken. But just last week, wait, was it? It was the week before last. We did our update on the whole, fixing the DC universe, getting back into it with Sir Torrent Clegane. Now this past week we've gotten those announcements that we were expecting. Everybody's been talking about it, so we're going to bring you all that news tonight as a primer for next Friday's stream, where our guest on Last Call will be Mr. J of Joker Voice, and he's going to be our subject matter expert as we start breaking down and editorializing, maybe more than I will tonight, some of this news that we're going to be bringing you. It's we're going to be in for a crazy ride if you're a big DC fan in the next couple of years, let me tell you.
Yep. Welcome, Mr. Matzik. Welcome, Horizon Talker. Check out Mr. Matzik's channel if you want to see Troy, myself, and
yep. And I did let everybody
about,
know last night on the Netters Network at the watch party for Cat People. I did let everyone know that I screwed up on my announcement on Friday. where I was saying that we would be talking about Spectacular Spider-Man Season 2 on Mr. Magic's channel this Tuesday. I was wrong. It's actually going to be the following Tuesday.
Yeah,
but
maybe get your dates right next time, please.
Well, and maybe everyone should just be subscribed to Mr.
Matchstick
so that he'll
I'm the one who messed up. I'm joking. I'm the one who messed up on your stream. You asked me, and I said that.
We both
I thought it was coming up this Tuesday, though. It's a week from this Tuesday, which is.
But
fine.
No, it's absolutely, it is a good point though. Don't always 100%, especially when we're talking about someone else's channel. Just subscribe to that channel, and hit that notification bell, and then you'll know when they go live.
Speaking of which, it's going to be the return of Birdman this week, this Wednesday night.
That is happening for sure.
We are doing it for sure, yeah. And it's going to be a rewatch of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with special guest Eric Woods. So that should be fun. Okay.
Good.
Been a few years since I've seen that. It's on Paramount Plus, so you have a reason to subscribe to Paramount Plus if you haven't already, besides Tulsa King. Actually, Paramount Plus is getting better stuff if you can ignore the Star Trek nonsense. Tulsa
That's
King
what a lot of
an
people have been
show.
telling me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they just keep doing the Star Trek stuff as a tax write-off or something. I don't know.
We're gonna have Paramount news to talk about tonight with Paramount Plus, actually. So it's on topic.
That does look interesting, and it's another one of those. Troy was right in my predictions almost 2 years ago, so we'll get into that too.
Well, you're saying that these companies need to start consolidating all their different streaming services.
Yep.
I remember you were getting all angry.
I said it's going to happen. I said they should get ahead of the curve, but it is inevitable. It will happen, and sure enough, we'll be talking about that. Yep. But you didn't tell us what you were sipping on, Agent Boomer.
You there?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. I switched internets. Okay.
There you go.
No, I was just going to say that, years back, I remember when we were looking at HBO and they had HBO Plus, HBO Now, and HBO Max they were about to unveil, and you were like, can you please get everything? Yeah.
It's like you can't even consolidate your own 3 channels, let alone all these other streaming services. I mean, it's crazy.
But, let's talk a little bit about the good old days, shall we, though? Speaking of television.
What would you like to talk about for good old days today?
Laverne and Shirley. Or even
we'll
greater,
have
you
it
can talk
our
about that.
way, yes, our way. Classic 70s TV. This was, I know that there were no female-led shows before the year 2000, right? And the whole idea of, gender swapping a concept never happened before. This was brand new to the fourth wave feminists. But no, back in the 70s, there was a spin-off of a show called Happy Days, called Laverne and Shirley, which was essentially, at its core, it was a female version of The Odd Couple. The Odd Couple being a classic play, movie, and then eventually TV series about two divorced men that were complete opposites. One was a complete slob, the other was a neat freak.
And they had to move into an apartment together, I guess, to save them.
And they had to move into an apartment together. Well, this is a similar thing. 2 single women living together, good friends, but very different personalities. Not quite the slob and the neat freak, but there are elements of that. A little bit more refined and, not quite so simplistic. But in order to talk about Laverne and Shirley, and I was telling you this back in the green room. First, you don't have a great deal of history with Laverne and Shirley, do you?
I'd seen it in pieces. I didn't realize it was a spinoff from Happy Days, but it makes sense since I believe it was another show that took place in the 1950s. Even though it was made in the 70s, right?
I want to say it took place in the 60s. I remember
59. I think the episode I watched, it was 59.
Okay, because I do remember that as the seasons went on, they changed the opening so that you would see them celebrating New Year's with a banner that lets you know what year you were seeing for that.
So I think season 1 was 59. Yeah, because I did watch an old episode before the stream just to see if I could get a feel for the show. It was the one where she was trying to throw a high school reunion. She said, "You've been throwing a high school reunion every year since we graduated. And that was 3 years ago, and you held 4 of them." Because the joke is she did 2 high school reunions. Like, well, that was a mistake, but I'm going to hold one this year. And they meet up with their good best friend, and she's become a nun. They don't know how to act around her. No,
especially because they had a history with her, and they're kind of afraid to talk about any of those things that they remember doing together.
Like body, like getting the guy to jump out of the closet in his underwear and that sort of thing, and just it's just
right. And see, the other thing too is that both Laverne and Shirley, did they go to a Catholic school? Was that the backstory? I know they were both Catholic. Because Shirley was the Irish girl, and Laverne was the Italian girl, but both Catholic, right?
Right.
And Laverne and Shirley, you don't really see. I don't remember seeing any of Shirley's family, but you see Laverne's father, because her father owns the pizzeria. I think it's just downstairs from their from where their apartment is. So you got that very Midwestern Italian type thing, which I totally could relate to, being a Midwestern, of Italian descent and so forth. So I totally got into that. But the two girls worked together at, I believe it was called Schatz Brewery.
Yeah, it was a brewery.
Which was a fictional, beer company. I'm sure it was supposed to be a nod to Schlitz or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
But it made perfect sense, in the Midwest, in Wisconsin. I don't remember if it was, like, specifically the Milwaukee area or not, but definitely in Wisconsin. And, but yes, in order to really get into this, so we got to back.
Milwaukee.
It was Milwaukee? Okay, thanks. We have to go back to, and this brings us back to George Lucas, guys. This is not off topic. This is not outside the geekiness. So before there was Star Wars, before George Lucas had the Hollywood notoriety to be able to do what he wanted to do with Star Wars, he did a little independent, and I'm not joking about this. This literally was a little independent film he did called American Graffiti. Starred, a lot of the people that went on to be in Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. There was, what's his name? Opie. Ronnie Howard.
Ron Howard, yeah. Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, right? Oh, but he wasn't that in American Graffiti.
He was a different character, but a similar character. Mm-hmm. Cindy Williams, who plays Laverne in Laverne and Shirley, also, a very similar character in the movie. Henry Winkler, I believe, wasn't Henry Winkler in it?
Yeah, I think so.
He was a character very similar to.
I think even Harrison Ford was in it, wasn't he?
Harrison Ford was in it. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember the guy that played Potsy in Happy Days, Anson something or other. I can't remember his name, but I'm willing to bet that Big Al drops it into the chat in a minute or two. Pardon me? Anson Williams. Yeah, very good singer, by the way. And luckily he got to be featured on Happy Days singing. He was in that show. So I can't remember which came first, if it was American Graffiti or an episode of Love American Style. Okay, now I got to explain Love American Style. Back in the 70s, there was this TV show called Love American Style. It was an anthology show, kind of a romantic, type of thing.
Like Love Boat?
Not quite. They were shorter shows. Okay. I think they were like half-hour shows.
Okay.
Not quite sitcom-ish, but they were lighthearted dramas, lighthearted romance type stories. But one didn't lead into the next. There wasn't an overarching story. It was, it was an anthology, and they had one that was, if I remember. I wasn't prepared for this. We decided to do this just before we went live, so I didn't have a chance to do my research. But there was this one episode of Love American Style, and I want to say it was called, All Our Happy Days, or Back in the Happy Days, or something like that. Mm-hmm. That was like kind of a backdoor pilot to Happy Days, but a lot of people saw it as the same characters saw the connection because some of the actors were the same from American Graffiti. And let's face it, even if it wasn't the same actors, even if there wasn't a production connection behind it, this was a nostalgia era. The 70s were a time when they were telling a lot of nostalgic stories about and set in the 50s, right?
Right.
So you get Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, American Graffiti. Later on, you get Grease, right, towards the end of the 70s.
Yes.
So and my mother was the one who was like, oh, okay, my generation is now making the movies. My generation is now, doing all the nostalgia. So I love to go see these kinds of movies and watch these shows with my mom. And she would tell me, how, she remembered a situation like this, or how life was for her, and how it was the same, how it was different, how she knew people like this and so forth. It was really, really cool. So Happy Days was a huge hit. It was a huge hit. Like I said, Ronnie Howard and Henry Winkler, and it was, everyone wanted to be the Fonz, right? Everyone wanted to be cool. Everyone wanted to wear a leather jacket, ride a motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
And another geeky aspect. I'm always talking about Mego action figures. Mego got the license to put out the Happy Days figures. So all the main characters.
Was Ralph Malph action figure?
Yes, Ralph Malph, Potsy, Ronnie Howard's character. I'm trying to remember if Al had a figure. I don't remember. Maybe not. But definitely the big figure was, of course, the Fonz. Not only did the Fonz get a real leather jacket, in quotes, real leather jacket, but he had, how a lot of these action figures were starting to come out with action gimmicks, right? You'd have Batman where he'd swivel at the waist and he'd punch, right? Well, the Fonz had, his hands were like in a kung fu grip type of thing, and you could flip up his thumbs, so he had 2 thumbs up, and then he'd push a lever on his back, and he'd pump his thumbs up like, hey,
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, which I also thought was actually pretty cool if you wanted to show him, like, punching and whatnot. But February 1972, the show aired a segment titled Love and the Television Set. Oh, okay. The premise and characters were later used for Happy Days for syndication. The segment was retitled Love and the Happy Days. That's it. Thank you, Al. Thank you very much. And American Graffiti followed Love American Style. See, now we got to give Al a raise too. He's out there doing the research for us, man. I'd say a good 75% raise for Al. What do you say?
Yes, sure.
I mean, it's your money, but okay.
I've got bags of money.
That's right. And Joker Voice was saying, yeah, Pat Morita was the original owner of Al's restaurant. He played Arnold. He was a great character. Oh my gosh, I loved him. My favorite. Now, see, the other thing too is everyone knows Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, right? Which was, he played a Japanese immigrant, right? So he did the accent and everything, but he did it in a pretty realistic way. Let's face it, he knew people, right? He was drawing inspiration from family and whatnot. Well, in Happy Days, he was a very different Japanese stereotype, but he went all in on the humorous stereotype. My favorite was when he'd laugh and he'd go, bah, ha, 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 bah. He was just hysterical. I loved him. When he left the show, I was really kind of sad. But they brought in an Italian guy named Al, and I was okay with that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, he was classic too. I remember the Weezer video. The Buddy Holly song when it was.
Yes, they used footage in that very Forrest Gump kind of way, the way they edited it.
Yeah, and it had all the characters, and they even had
as if those characters were part of that video. It was perfect. And the great thing was, because I was such a huge fan of Happy Days, I'm like, I know which episodes, plural, there was more than one episode they had to draw from to get those little clips. That was actually pretty cool. But anyway, why am I talking about Happy Days? I'm talking about Happy Days because the characters of Laverne and Shirley were introduced as friends of the Fonz. He sets up, I can't remember if it was Richie and Potsy, or maybe it was Potsy and Ralph, I don't remember who, on a double date with Laverne and Shirley.
And they were introduced on the show, yeah.
Exactly. But the thing was, very different. I mean, they were playing the same characters, right? But they were characterized very differently. They seemed a little bit more mature, a little bit more worldly, like they kind of got around, if you know what I mean. Which was intimidating to the guys, you know, because they were trying to, you know, get some experience and whatnot. Well, when they got spun off to their own show, Laverne and Shirley, the characters kind of changed a little bit. And Laverne kind of kept a lot of her, you know, run around Sue type of character, but she was a little bit more, you know, but, you know, Daddy, you know, wouldn't approve, so I don't want him to find out about it. Shirley was the good girl now. Now she was the good little Catholic girl dressed with high collars and kind of clucked her tongue at Laverne saying, you know, that's not really how a lady should behave and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So that's how it kind of changed when they got their own show. But yeah, no, great show. Now, I'm trying to remember if they had Laverne and Shirley Mego figures. That I don't remember, and I'm kind of thinking not. Which I think is a real missed opportunity. But nowadays, with all the custom Migos happening, it would be so easy to print custom heads of Laverne and Shirley and you know make your own figures. But anyway, yeah.
Could you take the head off of a Cylon and put Laverne and Shirley's head on the Cylon?
I mean, you probably could.
You don't want to do that, though.
No. I recommend if you do any, you know, just a little side note, since I brought it up, you know, if you're going to do any custom Mego figures, I recommend you go and spend the extra money and get the S-type bodies, because they have the you could screw off the back, makes it much easier to swap heads. Then you also have better posability without the elastic bands. I should do a whole video about that. That's some good stuff. But anyway, yeah, Laverne and Shirley was a great show. They were every bit as popular as Happy Days. There was this synergistic relationship with them. They had their lunchbox and their thermos, and you know, I saw those at school all the time, right along with the Happy Days ones. There was
Lenny and Squiggy were on that show, too.
Lenny and Squiggy, right. So Squiggy, and he just passed away a couple of years ago, too. That was really sad. Lenny was played by, help me out, what's his name? He was in Spinal Tap.
Michael McKean,
right. Actually, another good singer. I don't think he does enough with that.
Right.
But he played Lenny, and of course, we know he went on to marry Annette O'Toole, who we just saw just about all of in last night's movie.
It was funny how he ends up playing Perry White on Smallville, and he ends up dating Martha Kent later on in the show.
Well, and that show used to do a lot of tongue-in-cheek, you know, wink and nod to the audience, because it's like, if you know these two are married in real life, it's kind of a joke. Same thing when they had Luke Duke on, you know, and he gets into you know, and he's, you know, there was even a previous episode where Pa Kent's driving the truck down the street listening to was it Waylon Jennings, the theme from the Dukes of Hazzard. It's like, you know, that's good stuff.
What I thought would have been funny, though, remember the episode where where Pa Kent dies, right? And Lionel Luthor says, you didn't think you won that election all your own. And then he's showing him a picture, and I'm wondering what's in the picture. And I kept thinking, and I think my dad said it's a picture of Bo Duke, of him as Bo Duke or something.
Yeah,
you know? It's a joke. That's what I'm going to blackmail you with. You were on the Dukes of Hazzard. It was a joke.
That's funny. Big Al did say that the 1978 Mego catalog, the Laverne and Shirley line, lasted 1 year and did not sell well. The 12-inch dolls were not a hit. Not having known that, I could easily speculate why that was. It sounds to me like they did not market them very well. If there were 12-inch figures of Laverne and Shirley, they should have marketed them the way that they did the Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman, Cher, every other female 12-inch figure. They should have turned them into their own version of Barbie.
Yeah, that was the
turned them into fashion dolls. But you could have capitalized on the whole 50s aesthetic. Different, you could have had the poodle skirts and all that kind of stuff. Now, at the same time, Mego was incredibly cheap. Their figures are much, much better today. And the clothing is second to none now. There's this gal, Rachel. She's the one that designs the costumes now. I've met her. She's great people. I don't know how she sews these little bitty tiny. She must do them all by hand. She comes up with these patterns and then she sends them out to China and they mass produce them. But much more accurate than they ever were back in the 70s. Much higher quality. But yeah, that's probably why they didn't do well. But and they also should have kind of made them kind of a part of the. Oh, here we go. Let me open this in another window because Big Al is really earning his paycheck today. These are the 12-inch figures. I just have to share them with you. Present, share screen. There you go. So these are the 12-inch Lenny, Squiggy, Laverne, and Shirley.
Look at that.
Yeah, not all that great. This Kenner. Excuse me, not Kenner. Mego was kind of going the Barbie route with these figures, so the posability wasn't the best. The men's figures were very much based on the Ken doll mold, so like no articulation in the arms. I think if they'd have gone with like G.I. Joe style bodies, I think they'd have done much better. I also understand the real hair on the female figures, but yeah, they turned into rats' nests. I mean that was always a problem. If you have a female character with a short hair style, you're probably better off with molded plastic than real hair. The only time you're going to want to do real hair is if you have like longer than shoulder length hair. Yeah. Why do I know this much about female fashion dolls? This is just I don't know.
Hey, I'm not judging.
I mean, yeah, I'm just.
But yeah, it's weird how in the 70s it was all about 50s nostalgia.
Yeah.
When you get to the 80s, it's about 60s nostalgia because you had shows like The Wonder Years and China Beach, remember?
I do.
I
absolutely do.
And then you get into the 90s and you get 70s nostalgia with movies like Boogie Nights. I also remember that 70s show. That's an obvious example.
Sure. Yeah.
Then we get into the 2000s, and the whole 80s thing kind of didn't happen until I think recently with shows like Stranger Things. So there was a tradition like you'd go back, you'd have nostalgia for 20 years prior.
Yeah.
And then that kind of tapered off after the 90s, and I don't know why. Like, we haven't even really gotten 90s nostalgia yet, which I'm kind of puzzled as to why.
Well, we got that 90s show now.
That's the first example, really. All right, but we do have some, speaking though of Laverne and Shirley, we have some sad news tonight.
So I was talking about Cindy Williams, who played Laverne and Shirley. Sadly, we just lost her this week. I believe that was cancer, right?
I'm going to read the article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cindy Williams, a dynamic actress known best for playing the bubbly Shirley Finney on the beloved sitcom Laverne.
It's pronounced Feeney, and I know
Shirley Feeney. Okay.
That's important because in the last episode, she gets married to a guy whose last name is Meany, and Laverne goes, "Your name's going to be Shirley Feeney Meany?"
Oh, boy. Okay. Anyway, she played Shirley Feeney on the beloved sitcom Laverne and Shirley. Has died, according to a statement from her family provided to CNN by a representative. She was 75. Williams died after a short illness, said the statement from her children, Zach and Emily Hudson, provided to CNN by family spokesperson and Williams' personal assistant, Liz Cranis. Passing of our kind, hilarious mother, Cindy Williams, has brought us insurmountable sadness that could never truly be expressed. Their statement read, "Knowing and loving her has been our joy and privilege. She was a one-of-a-kind, beautiful, generous, and possessed a brilliant sense of humor and a glittering spirit that everyone loved. Happy had credits spanning 6 decades, but it was her role on Happy Days spinoff Laverne and Shirley that endeared her to millions and made her a household name. On
Yeah.
the series, she starred opposite the late Penny Marshall as one half of a dynamic friend duo whose adventures powered the show, which ran for 8 seasons from 1976 to 1983. That's a good run. 8 years? What is that? 7 years? That's a good run for a sitcom.
Yeah, I told you it was popular. I there was a lot of marketing for that show. There was just as much as there was for Happy Days. There was, like I Lunchbox is the first thing you think of, but there was like folders and notebooks and, just everything you could think of. There was Laverne and Shirley, absolutely.
Yeah, but good for that. I mean, and it's y'all have to understand that back in the day, your favorite show could get yanked like that. It was so for a show to have made it that long, that was a testament to how popular it must have been. Because some of my favorite shows didn't even last 1 season back in the day. It wasn't like today where you get greenlit for a second season before your current season is even done. And I don't know, it's or even aired, I should say.
I don't know if the article mentions. Is there still more to the article?
I can read more if you'd like.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let me just click.
I don't want to jump in if you're going to cover it.
Actually, go ahead and jump in. Why don't you jump in?
Well, I was just going to say that something. This is another George Lucas tieback. Cindy Williams was also up for the role of Princess Leia. She.
I could have seen it.
Yeah, and Lucas really was kind of planning on it, and then he was like, "Yeah, no, maybe not."
To be fair, though, looks like she had a great success run with this show, so maybe we're just as well off. Yeah, but no, I mean it's just it's sad. We're losing a lot of our great talents, and this makes me want to go and now watch all these 70s TV shows. Are they like on a streaming service?
Well, see, that's not usually how I see these shows, so I wouldn't know. But I would encourage you to look into it because these are good shows.
We used to have a cable channel called Nick at Night, and they would show a lot of older sitcoms. Remember that?
Yeah.
But it would be neat, like
sorry, go ahead.
You need if like Paramount Plus would have like sections on their streaming service where it's like different decades of shows they own. Like you could have CBS in the 70s and have like a 70s night or 80s or whatnot. Just do like a. Of course, then you wouldn't be watching the new stuff, would you?
Right, that's true. Joker's talking about her dumping Carmine, the big ragu. Yeah, that's another. It's like so many. We've lost Laverne, we've lost Shirley, we lost Squiggy, we lost the big ragu. Of course, we lost. I'm trying to remember her father's name on the show, but he's been gone a long time now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean. Honestly, Lenny's the only one left, I think.
Yeah, well, here's to more Michael McKean. I
right?
haven't seen any of these in a while, but remember those? Even after Spinal Tap, you would have these fake documentaries coming out.
Yeah,
Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and he would still be in them, even though he's playing different characters.
What was that folk music one?
Mighty
Wind or
Wind,
something like that. Yeah,
which is a brilliant movie.
Not my cup of tea because I can't stand that kind of folk music. But
it's making fun of that kind of. Well, actually, is it making fun of it, or is it endeared, or is it almost endearing to it? But my dad.
If you can't be sure, they did a pretty good job. Then they walked that fine line.
My dad had a lot of those records, right? Like he had the new Christy Minstrel, so he was getting all the jokes. I took him to the movies to see it, and he was getting all the jokes. And the funny thing about Michael McKean's in it, he plays the folksman, but it also has the 2 other actors who were the trio of Spinal Tap. So they're still playing a music trio, but they're in this instead, playing.
That is funny,
trio.
Yeah.
It's funny, and then there's the funny Cher stand-in, and it's ridiculous.
So the Tuesday night lineup when I was growing up, so this would have been 7 o'clock Chicago time. It would have been 8 o'clock your time. It was Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, and Taxi.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love Taxi. And Three's Company I love all too. So Three's Company and Taxi I used to watch in repeats. John Ritter, wonderful comedic actor, physical comedian.
Gosh, he was
in
a
Taxi.
genius.
Happy those 4 shows.
Yep, that was the Tuesday night lineup.
That's a powerhouse right there. All 4 of those are classics.
Yep.
It's better than Different Strokes, but we'll talk about that another day.
I definitely recommend. Actually, I recommend all 4 of those shows, but yeah, check them out. It's the kind of thing that it's nice to play those shows kind of in the background while you're working or whatever, if you can find them on a streaming service. It's some really good stuff, and yeah, I think we're gonna really miss Cindy Williams. I just miss those shows too.
Connie Cleary, welcome.
Hey, Connie.
Don't believe I've seen you here before, have I? Or I don't know, but welcome.
Connie's been becoming a mainstay. I was actually glad Connie stopped by and hung out with us for the stream last night. I didn't think. I thought that might have been a little bit spicy, might have driven viewers away. But thankfully, Connie stuck with us and
cool.
Still enjoyed the film. But
all right, so you're on the seas now in your library. Do you have critters?
I do not actually.
Okay, never mind.
In fact, I should hit up Fanzine and ask him if he knows if it's come out on HD and or if it's going to be.
I have a digital copy of it, but I don't have a physical.
Gotcha.
All right, but go ahead and let's.
Well, I'm first dropping the video for the announcement. That's just kind of.
Yeah.
You know, you can open that and watch it later. Don't leave our stream right now. But that's the official announcement that we'd all been waiting for from James Gunn that we are now gonna talk about.
Well, I want to say before we even get into the article, your general impression. I thought this is so bizarre that he's sharing all this information. It's like how we always do our speculation things, like a Matchsticks channel on your stream and whatnot.
Yes.
And here he is laying everything out of all these ideas he has going forward. It's like this is something I would typically expect them to be talking about in a boardroom or to investors.
Nah, see, I think I see this as the same kind of thing that we've seen coming out of Star Wars and Marvel and all of that, where what they're doing is they make this announcement to kind of drum up some excitement from the audience, from the investors, from whatever. But the other side of this shitstorm is the fact that he also has to announce a bunch of crap that he had nothing to do with, that they're just dumping to get it out there. We'll get into it as we get into the play-by-play with the next article. But he goes through a whole... And you'll see it in the video. I mean, I don't think... I think if you just went away and didn't listen to anything I had to say and just went and watched this video, I'm willing to bet you'd all come away with it the same impression I did. He goes through all of these things, and then he gets to... But we really start, the DCU Chapter 1 with Superman Legacy, right? After he's just announced, a gajillion films. And it's like, okay, these are all the leftover bullshit.
Snyderverse stuff.
Snyderverse or pseudo-Snyderverse stuff.
Whatever the current DCU
that's
was.
Already in the can that they got. So look, we said this all along. The Flash, they said, fuck it, we're putting the Flash out. Batman stuff from the sparkly bats, we got to get all that stuff out. It's all in the can. Let's get that out there. This is like
Artie Bucco having to push the scampi when he has a new lasagna special.
Exactly. That's a great analogy, actually. That's a great analogy. And all of this kind of stuff. And some other things that we're going to get into, like the cartoon series continuing forward and so forth. All of this was already in the works. There's already contracts involved, especially Sparkly Bats, right? There's all kinds of contract shit going on. They're married to that. They can't just dump it. If they can't weave it into the DCU that James Gunn is doing, then they got to keep it separate and say it's an Elseworld. That was... actually something that's kind of clever that he gets into.
I want to address this statement. Okay, so most of these individual movies and TV shows work or with some tweaking work in a vacuum, but it's not a vacuum. I think it's way better Snyder stuff than a mess. But yeah, here's what I don't understand too, even with the Snyder stuff, like Blue Beetle. Is Blue Beetle in a vacuum? Is it still Snyderverse? Why should it be Snyderverse at this point when it's a
I'll
new
tell you
superhero
what.
you're introducing?
I'll tell you
It's
something. Just like with Flash, and they're trying to spin the Flash as they're using it to reboot and start the new James Gunn. That sounds like what they're planning to do. Sounds like they're going to tweak the ending.
and how does Aquaman fit into all this?
I don't know. They didn't get into that at all.
As
But
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is going to be the sequel, so is that going to take place before this Flash movie? But they're bringing out the Flash movie first.
That's a good point.
Does anybody know what's going on?
We can get into that in a minute, but I wanted to make the point that Flash, whereas Flash does all the time travel so that Flashpoint can reboot their DC universe. Okay, great, wonderful. So technically, he starts out in the Snyderverse, and technically, he ends the Snyderverse, right? By the same token, Blue Beetle's a character from the future. So when he travels, time gets shifted too. So he could start out in a Snyderverse future and end up in, the James Gunn DC universe. If they're smart, if they're doing it the logical way that they should. I'm not so certain how much logic is going to be brought into this, but yeah, maybe let's just get into that that article.
The DC Universe has been reborn. At a press event and via a video shared on social media, DC Studios co-chairs James Gunn and Peter Safran unveiled their 8 to 10-year plan for a new, more unified DC Universe across films, TV, animation, and video games. Not unlike rival Marvel's phases, Gunn and Safran used the terms Chapter 1 to describe DC's new slate. It has another name too, Gods and Monsters. In short, the new DC slate is using major A-list characters to help introduce relatively more obscure characters unknown to the mainstream. One of our strategies is to take our diamond characters, which is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and we use them to prop up other characters that people don't know, said Gunn via The Hollywood Reporter. Nothing wrong with this so far. That makes perfect sense. They used to do that on Superman the Animated Series, or even on Smallville, where you'd have lesser-known superheroes show up and team up with Superman for an episode or something, and then that'd be a good way to introduce the audience to them, so you don't start a movie out with characters we don't know who they are yet, because I'm not saying anything bad about Black Adam.
You're right.
Except they didn't introduce. I didn't know who. The audience doesn't know who. Never mind. We're not talking about Black Adam. Let's move on. Okay. One of the biggest news is easily a new Superman movie titled Superman Legacy with a release date of July 25th, 2025. But a new Superman isn't the only thing that's defining the new DCU. A brief rundown of DC's Chapter 1 projects is as follows. Creature Commandos, a new animated series written by James Gunn, and a modern take on characters who were monsters assembled to fight a certain German group that we fought during World War II, whose name I can't say, because even though it's historical fact and I find this group reprehensible, no, I'm an American, never mind. The show is currently casting, but Gunn and Safran say that the voice actors will also play the characters in future live-action versions. Question. Creature Commandos, is this part of the new DCU? I was confused on this.
I get the impression that this was one of James Gunn's kind of pet projects, very Suicide Squad-ish.
It sounds interesting, actually. I'll say that.
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't super into it back in the 80s, but I loved the concept. I was kind of... It was kind of one of those titles that I was already involved in too many titles. I couldn't take on another one. Right. But if I was going to, that was one that I was kind of eyeballing.
Okay. All right. So we'll see. Cartoon series might be neat. Again, okay, we'll see. Waller, a TV spinoff with Viola Davis back as her intimidating Amanda Waller, who oversees the Suicide Squad. Now, this can't be part of the new DCU because this connects back to those Suicide Squad movies from the Snyderverse. So I think this is a leftover project, right? That they hadn't gotten around to They greenlit it. They signed all the contracts, so it has to be made.
I'm going to hold off on this because I've got more to say about that.
Superman Legacy. James Gunn is writing a new Superman film that will reintroduce Superman to the screen, titled Superman Legacy. The film is not an origin story, good, but will have Superman balance his Kryptonian heritage and his Earth upbringing. Not quite sure where they're going there. But the project is seen as the primary launch, the true beginning for the new DC. Gunn and Safran describe Creature Commandos and Waller as appetizers. But Superman Legacy will be the real beginning of Chapter 1. Okay, so are they just going to keep Viola Davis how they kept Judi Dench as M in both the... Is that what they'll do?
I mean, there seems to be a certain amount of logic there. I'm still very bothered by the casting, especially when we're all trying to be all PC and woke and body positive and everything. Amanda Waller is a heavy woman.
Yes.
Okay? She is a female kingpin. Okay?
Yeah.
And the fact that they jettison that, and there's a lot of actresses that could have played that role.
Oh, sure.
To have chosen Viola Davis for it. Now, don't get me wrong. In temperament, she's perfect for the role. But she needs to put on about 60 pounds.
Was she playing the Woman King? Wasn't that an athletic role she had to play in that Woman King movie she did? So I don't know. Okay. Okay, so Legacy will be the real beginning of in the video. James Gunn used art from Grant Morrison's seminal All-Star Superman, indicating the film will borrow elements from Morrison's iconic story. At the event, it was reiterated that Henry Cavill will not return as Superman. So I take it this is going to be a...
This is what he referred to previously when he was saying he was looking for a younger actor to play a younger Superman.
But how can this be All-Star Superman? Because isn't he well into his career by the time that where that comic book is supposed to take place?
I'm trying to remember because there was like a couple of different alternate Superman takes at that time. I think this one kind of smooths over and reconceptualizes it.
Okay.
Although it's not an origin, it kind of goes back and glosses through his early years. If I remember it correctly.
Okay, I saw the animated feature based on it. I like the take on Lex Luthor in that, how he's sort of like Ahab chasing the whale. I kind of
that is absolutely good take. Yeah. Morrison is another one of those. He's kind of hot and cold. Sometimes he does really, really good. Sometimes he does really, really bad. All-Star Superman actually was really, really good. So if you're gonna look for something to adapt, that's not bad. That's not bad.
As long as they don't. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the ending, but anyway, Lanterns.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be a really dumb way to start your. They'd just be going back to the Snyderverse again. You get one Superman movie, then he dies. Sorry, spoilers for
what I will say this. From everything else they've announced, I could see a DC universe going to hell in a handbasket because Superman's not there anymore, and everything's going out of control. Because the other announcements would play into that. But anyway,
I would argue that I never had a problem with them doing the death of Superman. My problem was doing it as your second movie with Superman.
Yeah.
For F's sake, you need that to be the end of your third phase.
And you need to introduce the cyborg, the villain, right? The cyborg.
Yeah. Then you go through a phase where you have a world without Superman, and you have that's where you get your new legacy characters. You get the cybernetic Superman, as a villain. You get John Henry Irons, trying to live up to and demonstrate something that I think Superman needs to. For the first three phases, you got people trying to, make him into a celebrity and almost a deity and stuff, and have him, maybe even like, let's say at the end of phase 4, they put up the big statue in Metropolis dedicated to Superman, and he comes to the unveiling and he's like, I really appreciate this, but I don't really feel like I deserve it. And when everyone's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, look. I'm just just like any of you, I just happen to have all these abilities. So I do what I can to help out. But you know what? Every day. And then he points at people like the police officers and the firemen.
Right.
There's people out there without special powers doing the same thing. And they're at much higher risk than I am.
Yeah.
They're bigger heroes than I am. But, I appreciate it, but let's think of this as not really to honor me, but to honor all the heroes of Metropolis, And when he says something like that, right, then he dies at the end of the third season or phase or however you want to look at it. Then you have someone like John Henry Irons who doesn't have any superpowers, but he works with what he's got. He's following that, okay, just like Superman was saying at that unveiling ceremony, I'm going to do what I can to pick up the legacy and whatnot. You know?
Yeah, I like it.
Going back to the title for the first the Superman Legacy, right?
It'd be funny if he was in the crowd when Superman was giving that speech too, right? And
if you're smart, you set it up with a young black man that isn't given a name, but maybe he's an Easter egg, and he's in the credits as John Henry Irons, right?
Yeah, it would work. Next up, Lanterns, a Green Lantern television series modeled after True Detective. It will center on the characters Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and will play a really big role in leading into the main story we are telling across film and TV. So I guess there's going to be a story arc like they did with the MCU phases.
Now, my first gut instinct there was, okay, great. So you're just jumping over Hal Jordan to go to Jon Stewart, but I don't think that's what they're doing, actually.
No, they're going to be teamed up. That's what it's
it looks like what they're instead doing is they're going, look, we've already done Hal Jordan. So now how do we do Hal Jordan again? Well, we don't. We start with Jon Stewart and use him as the audience perspective character. And Hal Jordan's already been out there a while.
Possibly. It's odd that they chose the expression True Detective. Are you familiar with True Detective, the series?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so I don't know. This is an I don't know. It's funny, I almost thought that Guy Gardner would have been a better pairing for Jon Stewart because of how different they are, personality-wise.
I see that, but I also see that, I mean, just going with the history of the characters, you probably want to go Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart.
Okay. Right.
But the other thing, too, is maybe people are putting too much, being too literal with the True Detective thing. I think what they're really getting at is the whole idea of I was just choking a little bit. Excuse me.
No, it's fine, but it was Gunn that said it was modeled after True Detective.
I understand that. Maybe he just chose a bad analogy.
Are they going to be solving a mystery? That's right. Is it going to be a mystery series? He said it's going to be terrestrial. It's going to take place on Earth. That's what I heard him say. I
think instead of, and maybe I'm completely wrong, and this is exactly right, and I don't know what the hell he's doing. But if he's thinking of it more of as a police procedural, right? Two cops, they just happen to be space cops. Then it makes sense, because that's kind of what the Green Lantern Corps is. It's a space police force.
Yeah.
Then it makes sense.
So this is a question mark for me. It's just a big old question mark. I'm not saying it's going to be good or bad. It's just a big old question mark. That's what how I'm seeing that as this right now. Next up is The Authority, a movie and passion project of Gunn's based on the Wildstorm comic about superheroes who go to extreme lengths to save the world. This for me was the first red flag.
This bothers me.
Happened.
A lot of other things they should be working on before they start getting into these extraneous, obscure characters.
Are they there? I mean, everybody probably knows this in the chat, but of course you had that comic book. I think the comic was called Whatever Happened to Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and they also adapted it into the movie Superman versus the Elite, where they had these characters called the Elite that were stand-ins for the Authority, and it was basically setting up this type of superhero team as kind of the antagonists, villains for Superman, right? Like
definitely anti-heroes.
Yeah, and he ends up fighting them. So I don't know about having the actual Authority in the same universe as Superman, and how they can coexist.
Yeah, I am very, very concerned. I've seen a lot of fans speculating that they were going to use the Authority as, I guess, originally intended and adapt the Elite into this. My concern is if they're too literal with that, I had a real problem with the way, just like Zack Snyder had Superman snapping a guy's neck, I'm not too keen on Superman, unilaterally lobotomizing a character.
To be fair, though, in the comic, not so much in the anime, in the comic, you're talking about removing the superpowers. Yeah. Superman understood that their powers would regenerate and come back to them. That was a line in the actual comic and he knew it would happen. And he says, he knew that they would get their powers back.
That's a very important it's a story point that was not in the comic, and I didn't know about.
Well, no, it wasn't in the comic. It wasn't in the movie. That's what
in the movie is what I meant.
It wasn't in the movie, but in the comic, he knew that they would eventually get their powers back. That he just basically wounded them, but they would come back to the way they would all come back to the way they were before.
Gotcha. Okay, I did not get. Okay, if that's the case, and they make it clear in a film, that's a different story altogether. Okay, I get you.
So you're gonna have what's his name? Apollo and Midnighter. This as well, which are the analogs for Batman and Superman.
Exactly, that's the problem. These were supposed to be
like having the Watchmen in your DC.
Yeah, this was a separate universe originally. That was, they were alternate versions of these characters. When you bring them into this universe, it doesn't make any sense. It's like having two Supermans, two Batmans.
Didn't they do things like they would kill villains and they would flip the bird to the president of the United States?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know about this. And it sounds like a James Gunn style movie.
Yeah.
And I don't even necessarily have a problem with him being allowed to adapt this into a movie. I just don't think it should be part of this DC universe. That's what I have an issue with. And I'm just not, I don't know. I almost feel like they are rushing into this thing too fast. That they should have waited till all the Snyderverse stuff was done, and in the meantime, they want to give James Gunn a pet project.
That is kind of what I've been saying about a lot of this. There's a lot of things that James Gunn wants to do that I don't have a problem with, but again, he's not putting in the setup that needs to be there.
Right.
And it's the same problem we had with all the Snyderverse.
You're
putting the ending at the beginning.
It might have almost made more sense to have like a R-rated superhero universe, kind of like how what I thought Netflix originally should have done with their Netflix Marvel series, just have it be in their own universe and have it be R-rated. That way you can do something like the Punisher and Daredevil.
Yeah, especially since they're talking about these Elseworlds. Well, fine, you can have an Elseworld of Wildstorm,
like the Authority, or even like John Constantine's characters like that. You could have them in a more R-rated version.
In an alternate universe, you could even do the Injustice story.
Yeah. I don't know. Paradise Lost, a new HBO Max series set in Wonder Woman's birthplace of Themyscira. It is said to be an elaborate political costume drama like Game of Thrones. It will also be set between the two Wonder Woman films. But just Gal Gadot may not be totally out of the DCU just yet. What does that even mean? Wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense. So it's going to take place between Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84? What are they saying here?
That does seem to be what they're saying, and if that's what they're saying, then this whole project makes zero sense to me. If this was a story that was the establishing story for Themyscira and, how the Amazons got there, then I was going to be totally behind this. If this is something else entirely that takes place after Wonder Woman's already come to man's world, I'm not interested.
I don't understand. Are they going to basically treat this as Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84 are still canon in this universe? Because they can be, because they're not tied to Batman versus Superman or anything else, because they took place before any of the Justice League movies or any of the Snyderverse movies. They technically take place before. So are they going to be left alone to Does the Flashpoint paradox thing that happens not influence what happened in Wonder Woman 84? Or
Well,
but nobody liked Wonder Woman 84. I don't.
too many possibilities. One possibility is they're not putting enough thought into how the time travel, butterfly effect's going to work. The other possibility, maybe they are, and the fact is that a Wonder Woman that, was on Paradise Island, after World War One or two, or excuse me.
Do you think they could set up a Wonder Girl as the new Wonder Woman and take over the reins from Gal Gadot's character? I'm just throwing that out there, just pop in my head, because I don't understand why they're just not starting.
Probably not. There's no indication they're putting that much thought into it. We'll get into that when we start talking.
I don't know what this is. They say it's like Game of Thrones.
Getting into that when we get to Batman, but they've got some serious problems with legacy characters, and by legacy characters I mean where are they going to go after Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and so forth? The next generation of heroes. They should already be thinking about that now. Okay. I understand that they first have to establish Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, all the other characters around them, the first generation of heroes, but you've already got to be thinking about where you're going after that and where you're going after that if you're going to be laying the real groundwork. And they're clearly not, as you'll see when we get to Batman, because they have no friggin' clue what they're doing with Robin, let alone start talking about Wonder Girl. Because then if you're going to talk Wonder Girl, are we talking Donna Troy? Are we talking what would actually be kind of funny and cool is if they did Drusilla, but that's not going to happen because who the hell knows what I'm talking about. So never mind.
Not me for sure. Paradise Lost, though, I'm going to put a question mark on this one like I did with Lanterns because I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The Brave and the Bold, a new film that will introduce a new Batman to the DCU who isn't Robert Pattinson. It will introduce Damian Wayne as Robin. This is an introduction of the DCU Batman, said Gunn. It's a very strange father and son story. I'm going to say this is red flag number 2 for me.
Yeah, because you've just jumped right over Dick Grayson. You've jumped over Jason Todd. You've jumped over Tim Drake to go to probably the least like Robin of all of them to be the first introduction of Robin in live action. And don't give me, the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, because that was kind of never really Robin. That went from Robin's origin story to Nightwing,
basically. Okay, I have a suspicion as to why they're doing this story. I heard this on Midnight's Edge, so I heard it from them. So I don't have the details myself, but they had said that apparently Matt Reeves, part of his contract for the Batman movies was no one else can use like a villain that he's using in another DC property at the moment. So I guess no one can use Penguin in a Batman movie until his Batman movies are done. This is just what I heard on Midnight's Edge because they were having a discussion about this. Sure, Troy's looking that up right now. But,
no. I'm looking at something else entirely. It's just.
But what did I want to say though? But it sounded like this. There was a DC because before all this happened, there was a line of DC. They had like a DC animated universe of standalone movies that came well after Batman the Animated Series, where they were their own thing, but they were connected. And one of the movies was Son of Batman, and it was about Batman Bruce Wayne meeting Damian Wayne, and I guess Ra's al Ghul being assassinated by Deathstroke, and Talia Ghul was going after him, and I guess Deathstroke was the villain of that movie. My suspicion is they're kind of going with a plot line similar to that because I think they're worried, one, they don't know what Batman villains they can use, so we can use Deathstroke. Deathstroke was already supposed to be an Affleck Batman movie that was going to come out that never happened. Instead, they went with the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. So I think it's going to be Deathstroke, and I think they want to do this Damian Wayne wanting revenge. This means it'll have to be an older Batman, though, right?
Yeah. And that kind of
40s, I'm thinking
that kind of defeats the whole purpose, right? Because that's why you had Batfleck, right? You had Batfleck as an older Batman, right?
Yeah.
Now you get rid of him because you want a younger Batman, which is Sparkly Bats, right? And we get rid of Henry Cavill so we can get a younger Superman. But now we're going to have an older Batman and a younger Superman again. This is a huge, huge problem. And again, I got to point it out again. We still have not narrowed down the fucking number of Batmen we have. We still have umpteen jillion live action Batmans, you know? And this is not, and when you start talking about you can't use certain characters because they're tied up in a contract with this other Batman and fucking, I always talk about this, right? It's this condition called brumatactylophobia, right? Where you can't allow your foods to touch on your plate. It's an OCD kind of condition. Right. Well, that's what Warner Brothers fucking has. They can't allow this movie. They gotta put Batman in a little corner here and all of his characters and whatnot. But we want to use him in the Justice League. Well, you can't because we've got this contract over here. So you've got to find a way to work it. You know, this is a problem Warner Brothers has fucking made for themselves because they own the rights to all these characters, lock, stock, and barrel, and have decided for themselves to tie their hands behind their backs. It's not like Marvel films where Disney inherited Marvel Studios and Marvel says, sorry, we don't own the rights to these characters. Those are owned by Universal. We don't own the rights to these characters. They're owned by 20th Century Fox. We don't own the rights to this character. They're owned by Sony. Okay, well, we'll make a business arrangement with Sony. We'll buy 20th Century Fox. We'll come up with some sort of an arrangement with Universal. And they've done a pretty decent job with what they had to work with, right? Their hands were already tied a priori. Warner Brothers cut their own legs out from under themselves, and they keep fucking doing it.
I almost think, why didn't they just wait on this new universe till the Matt Reeves Batman movies were done? Or maybe they can't wait. This is what's not making any sense to me, because I guess they don't want to have the Robert Pattinson Batman in this universe. I guess that's clear. They want to keep that separate. Whether or not you and I
that's because Matt Reeves has done the exact same thing that Christopher Nolan did. I am the Batman guy, and my Batman is separate from all of your other shit. And again, some dumbass at Warner Brothers has allowed this to happen. When what they should have done was, no, it's not yours. It's ours. You work for us. You don't like that? There's the door.
The only other point I make, could it possibly be a younger Batman and they just skip over the other Robins and then Damian Wayne becomes the first Robin? Maybe he had a tryst with Talia while he was in college.
Well, yeah, sure. Sure, absolutely. Just like the Suicide Squad, where nobody gives a shit about the history of these villain characters because we never saw them on screen. You'll just find it all out in exposition at the big exposition dump at the beginning of the film. Do your homework before you come see this movie to know who the characters are.
How well liked is Damian Wayne?
Nobody likes him.
Okay. Is he what one would call a little shit, basically?
I think that Jason Todd was the most hated Robin until this little fucker came along.
Okay.
I mean, the worst thing you could say about Jason Todd was he had a bad attitude and he was stealing the hubcaps off the Batmobile. There's actually, a tongue-in-cheek humor to that, and kind of a tragic story there. There was some good storytelling there. So you actually were able to do something with Jason Todd, right? Again, another character they never should have fucking brought back from the dead, but they did. So he's got a whole legacy as the Red Hood and all that shit, But you got to tell that story before you just gloss over it and tell it in retrospect. None of these stories have been told. That's my problem. You want to get to Damian Wayne? That's a story you tell in your fourth phase. You know, if you're gonna make every phase or every chapter like a decade long, then you can have a different Robin each phase.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, and you could have started with Dick Grayson, then have him become Nightwing in Phase 2.
Right.
Like join the Titans. That would have been. They could have done a Titans movie. I thought
absolutely. And you have spin-off characters, and you build the world as you go. But no, they can't do that. They want it all now, and they're making all the same mistakes they did with the Snyderverse.
Okay, so you never know though. He did make a point how he's going to let the directors do what they want, which could be a bad idea if you get someone like a Ryan Johnson in there that doesn't want to go with.
Well, the whole idea is that's like saying I am putting together an orchestra and I'm going to let all the different instruments play whatever song they want to play. No, you are the conductor. You say, this is the script, this is the piece of music we're going to play, and you don't come in until I point to you.
And to be fair, you can get great directors that are on board with what the studio wants. I mean, I pointed Star Trek to The Wrath of Khan. When Nicholas Meyer was hired, but he did his job. He didn't go against Star Trek canon or do his own thing. He still made the movie his own, but he still.
That is actually a great example, right? He was talented enough to tell a great story, but he also was understanding that he had to work within the confines of the world that he's working in. And that is the problem here. You've got people like Christopher Nolan who can tell a great story, even within a certain amount of constraint. But one of those constraints should have been, but this character is eventually going to join the bigger world. If you don't like it, then we're sorry, we can't work with you.
You sort of had that kind of balance in the Phase 1 of Marvel when you had like Captain America and Iron Man, two very different kinds of movies.
Yeah.
Like I think the director who made The Rocketeer was a good pick for that. Did Captain America?
Good point. Yeah.
Versus Iron Man, which is more Jon Favreau, and his some of his comedic chops were in there. So
before we go on, we've had a lot of good comments that I do want to go back and hit.
I'll go through them. What do you want me to read?
Well, I want to go all the way back to all the way back to where you got the article from, and I posted it because Matt Anui says, let's see. He says, I like the Elseworld idea, though. I do, too. I understand it, but and at this point, it is the only solution to all this bullshit out there when they're trying to untangle what is and is not canon. You have to pull in the Elseworld concept in order to be able to say, this Batman isn't that Batman, and this Snyderverse is not the Gunverse or whatever it is.
Yeah. Hold on. I got the right comment?
Well, that wasn't the one I was going to say, but it's fine. We can talk about that. He's absolutely right. We don't know what's coming out, and but we know that there's contracts out there. So if something doesn't come out, we know that someone's getting paid for it, and they're going to lose money. So don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Mr. Magic talks about it. Films
in
a
vacuum
and
earlier,
being we kind of talked about that. Joker Voice says 6 titles announced prior to Superman Legacy, 4 Snyderverse leftovers, and 2 James Gunn's projects prior to the CEO job, and that is something I want to comment on. So you got James Gunn basically doing a couple of projects that are already in the can that are kind of sort of in the Snyderverse, right? And now this is the guy who's going to be in charge of the universe going forward. Does he have the wherewithal to say, you know what? I created these stories under, in a different universe. Now we're going to do a hard break and I'm going to let him go and continue on to something else. Or is he going to go, well, I like what I did here, so I'm going to keep those. And that's where it gets to be a real mess, and that's where his ego's going to get involved, and I think we're going to run into problems.
Why didn't Warner Brothers just wrap everything up? They have 2 more Pattinson Batman movies, right? Just get those done. Trouble is, though, you have the Penguin TV show, too, that they also greenlit. See, right. they're still dealing with all this other stuff they greenlit.
Yep.
So they can't really start fresh, but how long is it going to take for...
Like I said, it's that bromatactylophobia. They can't let certain things... and it just becomes a bigger and bigger mess.
Oh, what's your take on them supposedly open to the idea of keeping Miller? Supposedly they are playing coy since if they fire him, no one is going to watch the film.
And that's always going to be the case. This is something that Midnight's Edge and a lot of other people have talked about, not just about Warner Brothers, about all of these things. You normally don't get announcements that somebody is no longer going to be working with this on this and so forth. They just leave it alone, and you just never hear about another project coming out from them or whatever. And that's fine. And it does keep the possibility open that they do bring them back. So
I'm trying to think how Warner Brothers could have gotten out of this. Maybe do a Penguin mini-series on HBO Max. Don't have it be like a full-on thing that goes on season. Do like a mini-series. That way you're still satisfied.
Well, again, I'm going to say anything that's put on stream, they can say that it's canon, but not everybody has that frickin' service, so they're not going to see it. Honestly, the movies are primary canon, and anything that they put onto their streaming service is secondary canon. And that's just how it's going to be. Whether they intend it to be that way or not, that is the nature of things. Because you have a potentially... Everyone can go see the movies, and only the people that are subscribed to your service are going to see that other thing.
Yeah, the Batman did make money. It wasn't what they were expecting. Yeah, well,
and that is a problem because on the one hand, money talks, but unfortunately, what they're hearing is not necessarily the best lesson. If Pattinson's Batman was so good, then it should become part of the new universe going forward.
Here's what I don't understand. I originally thought, well, the reason they don't want the Pattinson Batman movie to become because they were basically pushing the PG-13. It's almost an R-rated territory. And how are you going to sell Happy Meal toys based on, the point is you want to make a more family-friendly Batman series, which is where I thought they were going to go. They could have always just done it's supposed to be a trilogy, the Pattinson Batman movies, right? Couldn't they have just had Matt Reeves shoot the sequels back to back, then release them 1 year after the other, and then you're done with them, and then you can move on to your new DC universe, or even work on your Superman movie and bring Batman in later.
Unfortunately, the whole Reeves Batman thing that could be a whole stream in and of itself, because there is so much going on there that doesn't even just have to do with how it fits into other things and the Batman character. There's these contract situations, there's budgeting, there's overruns that we could get into. It's probably more than we can get into tonight,
Right, so we have all these Snyderverse leftovers here.
Yep.
Or DC Universe. I don't know. It probably ceased being the Snyderverse a while ago, but I still call it that. One thing is you can tell which stuff James Gunn choose. Booster Gold, Creature Commandos. Yeah, we're going to get to Booster Gold in a minute.
And I'll tell you what, Joker Voice makes a great point. He says Superman Legacy is the only project that has a release date. They are fast-tracking this project. This film is the priority. That is probably the brightest point here in this article. Is that Superman is their cornerstone. It is clearly their priority, exactly the way the Joker Voice describes here. And I still feel that for all the belly aching that I'm doing about all this other stuff, it's all fugazi, as Tom Connors likes to put it. It's all just chaff. It's a bunch of shit that's left over from the previous administration that they're just dumping out there. They're basically putting it out there and saying, don't worry too much about any of this shit. Go watch it if you think you'll enjoy it. But everything really starts with Superman, to be honest.
Creature Commandos, and these struck me as prior projects. again,
And
Creature Commandos
I
should
have
just
no
be its own
problem
thing.
with Creature Commandos
Yeah.
because it is something that doesn't have to directly tie into anything that's gone before it in the Snyderverse. It is the kind of thing that can be on its own. So if it's an appetizer going into the chapter one, I'm okay with that. There's not really a problem there.
Who knows? There's no way of knowing if the Batman Part 2 is even going to come out or make money. Hopefully, it's not shit. Well, it's going to come out. I think they even announced a year. I think they even announced its title too. It's going to be called the Batman Part 2.
Yeah, it's coming out just as certainly as well, maybe not just as certainly, because we said the same thing about Flash, and now Flash is absolutely 100% happening. They not only have it in the can, but they've also said that they're putting it out. So it's done. It's coming out, whether we like Ezra Miller or not. But you're right. I mean, something that isn't filmed and in the can yet, there are things that can happen that can prevent it. But it's as planned as anything could possibly be.
Watch the animated film Superman Man of Tomorrow. Clark Kent battles Lobo, Jason Momoa. Yeah,
We did.
Yeah.
We actually did a discussion of that on Mr. Matchstick's channel. And yeah, it's good stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the animated series. Well, it's not really animated series, but the animated films that DC has done. If they just draw on that, they'd be. So who's Viola Davis? She's the one that's played Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad.
She's been in a lot of stuff. I think she was on Luke Cage as well, wasn't she? Cottonmouth's sister.
She was. That's right.
Yeah.
She was also in a TV series that Nanette and I watched called How to Get Away with Murder. That was actually a pretty good show too.
I remember seeing the previews for that. Yeah.
Look, great actress. She is a great actress. It's just that some of the castings that she's gotten, I've not been able to stomach very well.
And Waller Aravis was played by a very thin actress. I don't know if they're afraid of casting an overweight actress to play that part. I don't see Amanda Waller as necessarily a villain. I just see her as the government, basically, like the bureaucratic red tape government. Honestly,
she
can be an antagonist. Yes.
Look at the way that Viola Davis plays her. She plays her absolutely right. She is this hard-nosed bureaucrat, but almost on a Moriarty level, where she's a step ahead of almost everyone. And she's got that kingpin kind of thing going for her, right? You get the impression that you wouldn't want to go toe-to-toe with her in a physical battle either. She'd punch you in the nose and lay you flat, you know?
Green Lanterns is absolutely a holdover from the Greg Berlanti show, but it's still a really good idea at its core. Just remove the Berlantiness.
Remove the Berlantiness. I like that. That's a yeah.
I want to go on record saying something. There's no rule saying that any of these movies, even though I even hearing Damian Wayne and being about looks like it's gonna be son of Batman, I don't like that idea. But talented writers, directors, and actors and production people could actually turn, you make silk out of a sow's ear. They could do that. But
Auditor Dread's comment,
see.
I want to look at that and pivot on it. I feel like Lanterns could have been better when utilizing Earth-based detectives like The Question rather than have Hal and John stay on planet. You know what? This is what Matt Reeves should have been given. He should have done the fucking Question instead of the fucking Batman.
Well, anyway.
Just saying.
John Stewart is the perfect choice outside of my generation. The first introduction of Green Lantern was John Stewart. Yes, because he was on the Justice League cartoon.
I see what you're saying.
I'm fine with John Stewart. I guess are we even getting
Lethal Weapon with power rings? Actually, that's if you're going to do that though, then what Agent Boomer was saying is probably the better choice. Then
I was thinking Lethal Weapon, but like Guy Gardner would have been because John Stewart's ex-military.
Eeny miny hey mo. Yeah, exactly.
It was. Of course, I heard he got his head destroyed, but we'll find out that later. We'll discuss that later. Okay. I don't know. Did I go too far? I like Damian. He's my number 2 Robin. Okay. Well, I don't know if he gets better in the comics or what's going on with that, but Affleck is 10 years older than Cavill. Okay, so I don't know. Did I
And,
go too far? Did anybody talk about Wonder Woman?
No,
Here?
I'm just kind of skimming through, seeing if there was anything else here I want to comment on. Joe's Atmosphere. Good to see you, my friend. Glad that you're here. Damian Wayne, just kicking his ass in DCU. Oh, good. Yeah.
Actually, I think Matchstick brings up in one of the comments that Damian is good when paired with Dick Grayson as Nightwing. That maybe Dick Grayson can do things for, like, maybe he'll slap him around like Bruce Wayne would. I don't know. They say they have a good dynamic, so that might be interesting.
That's interesting,
yeah,
but you know, if you don't establish Dick Grayson, it's really hard to ever get to that.
Just have Chris O'Donnell come back.
I think he's a little old for the role, but yeah.
Hey, come on now! They got Michael Keaton coming back. I'm just thinking.
But see, here's the thing, though. You can recast these characters with younger actors, and if you put them in the costume from a previous era, it kind of sends the narrative message. This is basically that character, you know? You can do that.
People are starting to talk about Supergirl, so let's go into the rest of this, all right?
Am I posting the next article?
No, I'm not done with this article.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, it's already 10:30.
I know. There's a lot here,
through.
which is why we're going to be doing a whole other talk on Friday with Joker Voice about this.
I'll probably be skimming through some of these next articles, but I won't be spending too much on it. Booster Gold, a new HBO Max series based on the cult favorite superhero Booster Gold. I'm perfectly fine with this. Golden opportunity. You're doing the Blue Beetle movie. Maybe don't make that part of the Snyderverse, and you could have him star on Booster Gold. You could tie it into Booster Gold. Didn't him and the Blue Beetle team up and stuff? Wasn't it?
They were a great team up.
Yeah,
yes.
So maybe you can not get rid of.
I'm telling you, there is part of me that wants the next Justice League to be Justice League International, because that would be so. I would love to see the Justice League International done.
There's your DC Universe Deadpool, right there.
Yes, and to have that done by James Gunn would be classic. It would be brilliant.
Okay, next red flag, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, loosely adapting Tom King's recent miniseries, same name. The film will follow Superman's teenage cousin who, unlike the Man of Steel, actually saw her world perish. Yeah.
As soon as you say the words Tom King in a sentence, honestly, I'm inclined to say this is a non-starter for me. This whole James Gunn universe. That's like the turd in the pool. You know, it's like everyone out of the pool. We're done.
Yeah.
This is Tom King being a big part of this going forward. To me, may actually be worse than the Snyderverse.
Yeah, I'm already imagining Supergirl saying I didn't have a loving family raise me, Clark. You know, like her sassing Superman. I'm not wanting to see this. You know? She'll make Damian Wayne look like Little Mary Sunshine. That's what I'm thinking is gonna happen. I don't know what they have planned. We have a Swamp Thing horror movie and the origin story of Swamp Thing that will close out the end of Chapter 1 DCU.
That's actually not a bad idea.
I
the
like
idea of a horror story, because that's exactly what Swamp Thing was when he was introduced. That is the way you do a Swamp Thing story. It's the way you introduce magic into your universe. And this is fine if you want to do like a Vertigo style, series within your DC universe.
I remember those old record comic book sets. You mentioned the Spider-Man ones you got.
Yep,
My brother had a Swamp Thing one.
Yep, and there was one.
And it starts out with this depressed guy dressed as he was a clown, and he offs himself at I think with a gun.
Yeah,
isn't a kid's thing? It's like, what is this, a Swamp Thing? It's like, I don't want to see the crying clown. Depressed about his life. Let's not do that. But all right, let's move on to the next article because we got to start skimming through these.
Oh, okay.
Let's paste it.
Sorry,
what do I pay you for? And I get you're saying Matchstick. maybe Damian Wayne improves later on, but they don't ever get past that phase. Maybe that'll be what the movie is about. Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on something that's potentially really good here.
Okay. All right, here we go. The DCU has begun. The news of James Gunn and Peter Safran's plan for the first chapter of the franchise is now dropped. And hold on, sorry. Okay. With the title already confirmed, Superman Project revealed as Superman Legacy, the Superman Project, which will not see Henry Cavill return to the role of the Man of Steel, has also been given a release date of July 11th, 2025, with Variety reporting that Superman Legacy will be the beginning of this new DCU. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Okay, we already read that. All right. The Suicide Squad of Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn, is currently writing Superman Legacy, with Safran stating that he hopes the filmmaker can be persuaded, perhaps to direct it as well. Gunn adds that Superman is for everyone. That's a fourth quadrant film that should speak to everyone in the world. Superman is clearly a high priority for the studio, with Gunn and Safran feeling like introducing the Man of Tomorrow is the perfect way to kick off DCU, which of course is not unlike what happened with 2013 with Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Should I go ahead and read the rest? Oh, no, it's not. Actually, there's not too much more I have here. Okay, so fans were disappointed to learn Henry Cavill will not return as Superman, despite his being revealed during post-credit scenes at the end of last year's Black Adam. It was confirmed.
Wait,
soon after
let me interrupt you real quick,
Go
just
ahead.
so that we can say goodnight to Joker Voice. Make sure that you are subscribed to his channel and join us on Friday night when we have him back on my channel to really kind of continue this conversation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot more to say on this.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I wanted to make sure we say
You're
goodnight.
fine. You're fine. It's good to advertise your stream. It's fine.
Absolutely.
Cavill said in a statement at the time, though, for those who have been at my side through the years, we can mourn for a bit, but then we must remember Superman is still around. Everything he stands for still exists. The examples he sets for us are still there. My turn to wear the cape is past, but what Superman stands for never will. It's been a fun ride with you, onwards and upwards. I felt like he never got a chance to play Superman. That's what it's.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I feel like it's Man of Steel, then Batman versus Superman, where the whole world is spitting on him, and then he dies. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it makes no narrative sense, right? Because everyone kind of freaking hates him because he was responsible for destroying Metropolis and bringing this to the world. And then when he dies, it's like, oh no, our hero. You know, it's like, when was he your hero?
This is something that Smallville did that I didn't like. I do not like the idea of all these threats Earth faces coming from Krypton in some fashion, or as a result of Krypton blowing up, because it almost makes Superman's existence part of that problem. I'd rather him fighting. That's why in my phase 1, he's fighting terrestrial threats. He's fighting Luthor, Metallo. The point I'm trying to make is the world would be a much worse place without Superman in it.
Right.
And it's not just him trying to fight off Krypton leftovers. It's also about him fighting things that would have gone on if he hadn't shown up on Earth, and that's my point. But anyway, many DC fans were left understandably disappointed in the news, with many taking out to social media to call for the decision to be reversed. It's not going to happen. The newly appointed co-CEO James Gunn, however, has revealed why he and producer Peter Safran fell in to start over Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. Okay. I had a great meeting with Henry, and we're big fans. We talked about a number of exciting possibilities to work together in the future. Maybe they'll have him play John Constantine. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go to the next one, shall we? Do you have anything to say on that? It just seems like more of the same.
No, I think we actually kind of covered it on the previous one. There we go. I had to split
Cavill
it
gets
up
his
because
dream role most times. The directors and writers ruin it. Yeah, I know.
At this point, he really needs to take on a producer role and say, this is the role I want. I'm doing it. Fuck y'all.
Yeah. DC Studios CEO James Gunn recently released his plans for the future of the DCU and revealed that DC writer Tom King was one of the chief architects behind the slate. Yep. While detailing an upcoming Supergirl-focused film titled Supergirl Wonder of Tomorrow, Gunn related DC.com, this is based on the Tom King and Bill Quez Evely's wonderful comic. Tom has been of the architect of the entire situation. Gunn elaborated. He's been one of the guys in the room with us, along with 4 or 5 others. I love his take on these characters. He just turns them slightly to be something very unique. This description by Gunn concerning King's work should concern fans of DC, given King's track record at DC wasn't slightly turning the characters, but was completely butchering them and turning them into self-reflections of himself.
Yep.
Gunn provides the example himself, explaining why the new Supergirl film will be about. In our story, we have Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by incredibly loving parents. Kara was on Krypton. She was on a piece of Krypton that drifted away from her planet, and she lived there for the first 14 years of her life in a horrible situation where she watched everyone around her die. So she's a much harsher and more fucked up Supergirl than you've been used to thus far. Anyone who knows Supergirl knows this is not a description of Supergirl or her origin story. Well, that's another problem I have with Supergirl, though. Let's be honest here. She's had so many different origins and incarnations in the comics, right?
Well,
during the Death of Superman run, wasn't she not even like Kryptonian? She was
yeah. Here's real quick, just to bring everyone up to speed. When you say Supergirl, you are talking about a whole bunch of different characters. When you say Kara Zor-El, the specific version of Supergirl, she's had different origins, but they have all been kind of the same. Tweaked a little bit, but by and large pretty much the same. The idea that Kara Zor-El, she is Kal's cousin, living in Argo City. Her father was also a scientist, very smart. Set up a dome over the city so that when Krypton was destroyed, the whole city was saved. But unfortunately, the radiation poisoning that destroyed the planet, that turns the ground into kryptonite over time, eventually is killing everyone in Argo City. And he decides, I need to send Kara to Earth, just like Jor-El sent Kal. And
It's interesting on Superman the animated series. They did it differently because Superman was the last son of Krypton. You couldn't have a Supergirl come from Krypton, and that was the thing in the comics where they didn't have Supergirl come from Krypton. The writers of the animated series decided, well, we'll have her be on a Kryptonian colony, like a planet near Krypton. And it was called Argo Colony or something, and that actually works. And that colony got messed up when Krypton blew up, and everybody was dying, and they had to put themselves in project.
That's actually, and see, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That doesn't fundamentally change the character's origin.
No,
it just comes up with a less, golden age goofy, this idea of this city traveling on an asteroid, it's kind of, I always thought it was kind of goofy. That actually was them thinking it through logically. That actually makes a little bit more sense. There's also, they've played with the idea that Kara was born, on Argo, like after the destruction of Krypton. Right, so she's only known the post, destruction of Krypton, culture, right?
Interesting.
Whereas the more recent, and this is actually an interesting take on it, she was actually older than Clark. Okay, I'm just going to call him Clark. Clark was a baby. She was like she was a teen. And the thought was, send you to Earth at the same time. You can be there to help take care of your cousin. Okay. What happens though is she gets waylaid, whether it's because of the warping of space-time, or they use the Phantom Zone to send her there, and there's a delay, or she lands on Earth and she's in suspended animation. Whatever. The point is, she doesn't awaken on Earth until Clark is, in his 30s. She's still a teenager. So even though, she knew him as a baby, he's now older than she is. So, again, not significantly changing the characters and their relationships, just, trying to make the origin make as much sense as possible.
Right.
Given the sci-fi conventions that they have to work with.
So
But
instead we're gonna get a Supergirl movie. It should just be her on that rock of Krypton watching everybody around her die until she finally gets the Earth at the end of the movie. That should just be the whole movie, right? What do you think?
well, no, yeah, they've got to do the establishment of her. And really, I wouldn't mind seeing a whole movie being her origin as her time growing up, you know, in Argo City, you know? It's something we haven't really seen anywhere else. We kind of did in the original Supergirl movie with Helen Slater.
Yes, yes.
So you do an updated version of that, it could work. Joe's Atmosphere is talking about being a huge Supergirl geek. I kind of am too, because I collected those comics, those Daring New Adventures of Supergirl, during the 80s. Right at that time that movie came out.
Helen Slater was perfect casting.
She was
that part.
great.
Yes,
and I love that sweet, innocent girl, a fish out of water story type of thing. It was a great story. I think they're doing 180 degrees different with what they're planning with Tom King, and that's not going to endear her to anybody. Tom King needs to be kept away from comics. He needs to be kept away from your children. He needs to be kept away from anything that you want bright and wholesome.
By the way, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to go into another part of the article. As another example, King decided to not only tear apart Guy Gardner's character, he also had him brutally killed in his The Human Target miniseries. King turned Guy Gardner into an obsessive, jealous ex-lover of Ice. After attempting to abuse her, Ice freezes Gardner, and then the Human Target proceeds to punch him in the face, killing Gardner by shattering him into numerous pieces. The story didn't just destroy Gardner's character and kill him, but it goes on to imply that both the Human Target and Ice have sex after they kill Gardner. It's funny, I was reading up on that.
What did I just say about keep him away from your kids and anything that you want kept bright and positive? Yeah.
Does Tom King have kids himself?
I don't know. He's a messed up individual who literally needs to be getting some mental health. He's taking out all of his mental problems in his writing. Everything is a self-insert for him, and
apparently had some guy dressed as Rorschach escorted from that convention for not wearing a mask, and I was thinking Rorschach wears a mask, so it doesn't make any sense.
He's ex-CIA. That should tell you everything you need to know about him. Okay?
So, anyway, I'm really worried. Out of all of the movies announced, the Supergirl one has me the most worried out of it.
I am too. Anything that Tom King touches is gonna turn to shit. I love Mr. Matchstick's comment. Not a fan of that. Guy Gardner is the best. He is also the worst. Yeah. And that is true.
The funny thing is, I read up on this. Apparently, Guy Gardner was alive a few issues later, and they didn't explain how he was alive. I guess it was like Green Lantern powers or something. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Did he make a Green Lantern projection?
That actually sounds like the DC Comics editors going, Tom, you need to stop. Seriously, he is a big part of, he's right in there with who's that bald fuck that was in charge of destroying DC for so long? Bender.
Oh yeah,
Bendis, whatever. It made me want to go on a bender. This is the same problem that we're seeing over at Marvel, right? You're focusing on, it's great that you want to hold tight to the, or you want to honor the source material, but choose the source material that's good, not the stuff that didn't sell, that is causing your comic book company to go into bankruptcy. Okay? Go to the classic stories and tell them the way they were, okay? Not this bullshit New 52, post-New 52 deconstructionist shit that Tom King has crapped all over and wiped his ass with.
Yeah. I just had an image of how I would have done that story. You could have had the human hitman shows up to find Guy Gardner frozen, and I said, "Oh, he he was gonna kill me. He was gonna beat me. So then he punches him, and then you find out Guy Gardner had a twin brother who's like altruistic, and he was just someone who was breaking into his house. And I'm just saying, I don't know where my brother is. It's like like he runs an orphanage or something, and just.
Tom King just needs to be kept
thinking
far away from
how stupid this is. All comics can be dumb sometimes. Okay, so we'll talk more about this on Friday, right?
Oh, very likely.
Okay,
very likely. Once I get started on this, I'm not sure. Like a dog with a bone, I might not be able to let go of it.
Got a bad feeling about Supergirl. Authority, I think, is troublesome in a DC universe. I wouldn't have a problem if you want to do it on his own. That's fine. I don't. Especially when a lot of those characters were supposed to be analogs for actual DC characters. So why have them in the... I guess, were the actual characters eventually folded into the DC comic universe after Wildstorm?
That's what I've come to understand.
Okay.
Again, don't know why, but again, we're talking in an era where the comic is dying anyway. I don't think anyone's reading it, so who gives a shit?
All right. So let's go to the next story. This is major news. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
everybody.
no deleted scenes. I was not joking on that thumbnail.
Yes.
Yeah, he used to be CIA.
Yes.
If that doesn't tell you everything, a lot of stuff I ain't even saying on someone else's stream. He's a piece of work.
Woman of Tomorrow sucks. I haven't seen it, but I haven't read it, but I'm curious now. Okay.
Yeah.
Pennyworth canceled to HBO Max after 3 seasons.
Good. I'm surprised it lasted that long.
Treat this show with some respect, okay? Alfred Pennyworth is ending his origin story. HBO Max has decided against a 4th season of Pennyworth, otherwise known as Pennyworth, the origin of Batman's butler.
That alone should... that's like... That's like telling X273, the story of Luke Skywalker's aunt's housekeeping droid,
Oh, I can imagine how this went. Yeah, that idea you had for a television series based around the Question. Well, sorry, we're not going to do that. We're going to let you do a Batman series. Like, oh, really? I can do a Batman series? Yeah, about Alfred. The story becomes. I don't know how this happened. I didn't see that. I'm not a fan of Teen Titans Go, but apparently the joke in the trailer for the Teen Titans Go movie is that the Titans are so disrespected as superheroes that they're making a movie based on Alfred in Hollywood instead of the Titans. Do you understand? Because even Alfred is considered higher. I get that. That was the joke in that movie, but they did it. They did a 3-season series. Maybe it was brilliant. I didn't see it, but
there was talk over on the Marvel side of doing a story about Aunt May when she was young and making it like she was some sort of a super spy or something like that.
They're always a super spy.
Which, of course, never actually came to fruition, and everyone was like, well, good, we dodged a bullet there. No, we caught it over on the DC side with Pennyworth.
Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm not going to spend any more time on Pennyworth. We got to zip through.
Oh, that's all you wanted to say about it? It's been canceled.
What
We're
else
done.
do you want to say?
I agree with you 100%.
Are you going to catch up on it? You're going to catch up on years from now, and you're going to think this was brilliant, and I should have given it a chance.
I doubt it.
What's funny? They did Gotham, which was about Batman, but this is not even before Batman. This is before Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
This is Thomas Wayne. I guess he's over in England. Who is he going to fight on that show? Ra's al Ghul?
I don't know. The descendant of Jack the Ripper or something?
Yeah, there you go, Jack the Ripper. They did a Peggy Carter show that actually made sense. I actually enjoyed the Peggy Carter show.
I loved that.
Yeah.
When they canceled that, that was pretty much where I started to check out from the Marvel Universe.
What I thought was funny about the Peggy Carter show, the Peggy Carter show felt like a real sequel to Captain America: The First Avenger.
It really did.
It felt totally the same. It had that whole thing, and I thought it was funny because you had Howard Stark on it, right? And one of the villains in season 2 was a mob guy, right?
Right.
And they're going up against this mob guy, and then he shows up on Howard Stark's property, and they know each other, and they're sort of acquaintances, and they're laughing and telling jokes, and I laughed at that because I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because, of course, Howard Stark probably he would deal with someone in the mob. And
it's
it's funny that
absolutely. It makes perfect sense.
The Gotham was a so bad it's good show. They did not care at all, and it was amazing. I probably should have watched Gotham instead of The Flash as my pickup show after Smallville, but I went with The Flash, and then I gave up after 3 seasons.
I think I made the right call by not picking up any of them after Smallville ended.
Well, I will say that Gotham was its own thing. It wasn't connected to the Arrowverse. I can't
that's fine, because the Arrowverse wasn't connected to Smallville. That's why I checked out.
Tuesday was a huge... Okay, let's go to the next one. Harley Quinn confirmed for another season.
Oh, yay.
Tuesday was a huge...
Yeah, so Mr. Magic's saying, how did Pennyworth get to 3 seasons? Why are we renewing Harley Quinn, is what I'm saying.
Tuesday was a huge day for DC fans, with DC Studios announcing... I know all about that. All the crap. Including Harley Quinn. Yes, Harley Quinn has been renewed for another season. I've seen clips from Harley Quinn. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Maybe it's cheap to make. I don't know why this keeps getting renewed. It's like...
Honestly, I think the only thing that's selling this show, and the reason it's getting renewed, is because you got a lot of sickos that just want to see 2 cartoon girls getting it on. That's it.
This is an example of not letting your peas and your carrots touch.
Yeah.
The prawn should be separated out from your other stuff, if you know what I mean. I said prawn, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
I'm just saying.
But that's the problem.
I don't get the fetishization of...
If the adult entertainment industry did Harley Quinn, it would be better than what DC is doing.
It's like a discount Venture Brothers. But again, I made this point about Venture Brothers. Venture Brothers, while it's sort of making fun of Johnny Quest in the era, it isn't actually Johnny Quest. It's its own thing.
Right.
And I do like Brock Lesnar on that show. He's played by the guy who played Cuddy on played the dumb guy in Emperor's New Groove.
Right, he played the Tick too.
Kronk, yeah, the Tick, yeah, same actor. Yeah, he's on Venture Brothers. He was brilliant on it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's come on. Let's zip.
Showtime?
Yes.
Okay. Here you go. Well, there's a little delay.
There it is. You're so slow. You are not the Flash.
It's not my fault. Blame StreamYard.
StreamYard is slow lately, isn't it?
It is. I've told you, yeah.
Showtime and Paramount merging with rebrand planned. Yay! Paramount is making a major change to its linear and streaming businesses, merging Paramount Plus and Showtime in both areas. In connection with the changes, executives warned of likely layoffs and changes to programming to follow in the coming weeks. Paramount CEO Bob Bakish announced the move in a memo to staff Monday afternoon, confirming rumors that had been brewing for some time. For starters, both Showtime linear pay TV channel and the premium tier of Paramount Plus will be rebranded as Paramount Plus. Okay, Paramount Plus with Showtime. Shouldn't they call it Paramount S?
I don't know.
Like Super Paramount? With Chris McCarthy to lead the Showtime studio and linear channeling, with Tom Ryan overseeing the streaming business. Bakish added that the changes will unlock operational efficiencies and financial benefits for the company. While we are confident this is the right move for our company, our consumers, and our partners, we know this change brings uncertainty for teams working on these brands and businesses. Bakish wrote, We are committed to being as transparent and thoughtful as possible throughout this process, and we expect to share additional details in the coming weeks. In other words, there will be cuts associated with the merge, with details still to be determined. Other changes, like the pricing and plan for merging accounts for people with both Showtime and Paramount Plus, will also be in the next few weeks. Another area that we see notable changes is in programming. In a memo of his own, McCarthy touted the complementary audiences of Showtime and Paramount Plus, while adding that the company plans to lean into shows that tightly associated with Showtime's brands, strengthening and content fillers, calling out programs like Yellow Jackets, Billions, Dexter, and The Chi. I've heard of 2 of those. Here's what I don't understand. Apparently there was a a cable channel that was a Paramount premium cable channel as well, and that's where Yellowstone kept premiering on, but it wouldn't even appear on Paramount Plus at the same time, which struck me as odd. It just seems like they're separating all these out. Yellowstone is a big popular series. It should probably be on something like a Showtime, right?
Well,
or maybe Showtime should just merge with this Paramount Plus thing. I don't.
Yeah, and what they should do, yeah, and then what you do. Here's what I would do if I was in charge. So we have Yellowstone that's really, really popular, right? So we put out our new season of Yellowstone and we put it on whatever the streaming service is. You want to see it, you gotta subscribe, right? Then next season, when we renew it, the new season goes on the streaming service, but the previous season gets rerun on network television or whatever. You're a year late, but you still get to see it. And now that you've seen it, maybe you go, I want to see the next season. Oh, the next season's already out. It's on this premium service. And then you start looking. Is it worth it to me to sign up?
And then you see what else is offered.
Exactly. That's how you do it.
Apparently, some Showtime shows have gotten the axe. Scripted dramas, Let the Right One In. They did a series based on that. Did you know that?
You are kidding me.
No, they did. I saw a trailer for it. It was not another English language version, but in a series form of, I guess, that original movie. And I think it goes back and forth between time, like when he's a kid, and also modern times when that kid is now an adult taken care of.
Well, that actually does sound like a good story.
It might be good. I'm not attacking
but if it,
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if it's being canceled, maybe it wasn't that popular, and probably implies to me that it never was that good.
Oh, here's the problem. Nobody can afford all this stuff. They can't afford to have both Paramount Plus and Showtime. And I have a feeling that's like Disney's trying to do with Hulu and with ESPN and with National Geographic, which I assume was bundled. I don't think they sold that separately. I don't know. They always acted like it was a separate service.
Well, I would just wait on Disney and see what happens with Disney after the earnings call. This is going to be very, very interesting.
When is that?
Next week.
Okay, so we may have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we definitely will.
But basically, it looks like they're eventually going to combine, so this is fine. You'll get Showtime shows on Paramount Plus. Hopefully, they're not going to increase the price of Paramount Plus to conform to that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
This is going on forever. I don't care. There's a big letter. Okay, let's move on.
Before we do, here. I just want to speak to
Outer Dread.
No. Matanui never liked Harley. I'm with you. I don't like this whole idea that a second tier, henchwoman gets turned into, this, anything where she would have her own ongoing story and all this kind of stuff. She was great as a villain under the Joker, but, never mind. Moving on.
Well, they end up having to bring in along a new assistant for the called Punchline in the comics, right?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
Okay. I don't know much about her, but anyway. Okay. Velma angers viewers with harmful sickle cell joke.
Yeah. This is wow.
HBO Max's Velma only debuted 2 weeks ago, and the updated Scooby-Doo tune is already facing criticism over joke in the first episode. When Velma Dinkle, the main character in the adult animation series about the origins of the future member of the Mystery Incorporated gang, encounters Fred Jones, he makes an excuse for not having remembered Velma's name. I have a disease where I can't recognize people who aren't hot, he says. My doctor says it's basically sickle cell for rich people. Is it called rudeness? Mindy Kaling, the voice of Velma and an executive producer on the show, quips. Then Fred, voiced by Glenn Howerton, answers earnestly, "It is. You're like smart." Not many viewers were laughing. What might have started as a harmless joke turned out to show a lack of empathy, compassion for, and knowledge of sickle cell disease. One advocate tweeted, another tweeted, to associate sickle cell to rudeness is extremely harmful. According to the CDC, sickle cell disease is a group of inherited red blood cell disorders which affect the shape of cells that carry oxygen throughout the body as a result of the patient. About 100,000 Americans, mostly black Americans, are affected.
True.
Um, Now, here's the thing: it's attacked a lot of people on the show. It's attacked
Yeah.
other demographics, which I won't get into here,
I mean, you
because
could
it's
make the
okay to attack.
argument that just like so many other really good comedies, um, South Park. I was never a big fan. I know you were. They pretty much make fun of everybody, right? So you could make the argument that that's what's happening here. But number one, there's nothing funny about this show, so there's no one willing to defend it, and she is literally pissing off even the people that would otherwise be into this woke bullshit. She's really, there is no audience for this, and if there was, she's carving them out as she
I
goes.
I would love someone at if there was a public investor meetings for Zaslav. I want someone to ask Zaslav who was the audience for Velma.
Yeah.
Who was the audience for? I want to know who the audience is. I don't understand too. Scooby Doo. It's a children's property. Adults enjoy it too, but it's meant for children. It's actually still a very popular brand
If you
even
don't
now.
understand, then you don't understand cultural Marxism. It's the same deconstructionism that they did to destroy Indiana Jones and Star Wars and James Bond and Star Trek and every other thing. If, if there's something you love from your childhood, they will find a way to pervert it and destroy it. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, well, that's what this sounds like, but I don't know why HBO, Warner Brothers, keeps allowing this to happen. Now, to be fair, maybe this was greenlit before Zaslav showed up, but it's still
Possibly.
being carried on for another season. I don't know who greenlit that, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
and I that's the only positive side here is what Mr. Matchstick said. Velma has successfully united everyone against it. That's pretty much the case, yeah. Which is exactly what they didn't want to do. The whole idea of cultural Marxism is to divide people as much as possible.
Yeah, well, it's the only goal of it seems to be making shitty TV shows that nobody likes. But
Yeah.
speaking of which, let's move on to Doctor Who Maestro Russell T Davies.
I like that. Very good.
What just ties into it? This
It
is the
does,
same
doesn't
thing.
it?
It's a peek inside Mindy Keling's mind, nothing more. Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Velma angers viewers with harmful. Okay, I already did that one. Okay, hold
Yeah.
on. Doctor Who maestro Russell T Davies hits out at rubbish modern woke scriptwriters who are obsessed with diversity rather than loving television. The mastermind behind the renaissance of Doctor Who has criticized rubbish television screenwriters obsessed with diversity. Russell T Davies, the chief writer and producer of the show's 2005 reboot, said many scriptwriters today did not love TV and were more interested in representation. I do a lot of mentoring, and there are voices wanting to be heard of any or ethnicity who consider themselves invisible, he said. They hate the media that ignores them, and they're trapped into wanting a job in that medium purely to increase representation. He told the Sunday Times, I read their scripts and they're rubbish. They don't actually love television, so they don't know how to write for it. In the same interview, actor and director Mark Gatiss shared his concern about the quality of new writers. Sometimes I think I'm like Pollyanna because I've met so many people who hate making television, he said. It seems to make them so miserable. Go and work in the bins or something. It's hard work. It gives you ulcers, so you have to love it. Mr. Davies has returned to oversee Doctor Who in its 60th anniversary year after the most recent run suffered a poor reception from fans and critics. It faced criticisms under Chris Chibnall for being too political and woke. He quit the show after the latest Christmas special, the final episode with Jodie Whittaker as the first female Doctor. In 2005, Mr. Davies revived Doctor Who to critical acclaim by casting Christopher Eccleston and then David Tennant in the lead role and penning more adult and modern storylines. This year, fans will get to see Nkuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, the first black actor to take on the role. I wonder if he was referring to some of the writers that wrote the last iteration of Doctor Who when he was saying this, because it sounds like he's describing them, though I don't think he would ever admit that publicly.
Yeah, and or he could just be saying more broadly, because it is something that's affecting the entire industry, across the board. But either way, I think it's also very important to make the distinction between what he actually said and what the article is implying here. He's talking about the quality of writing for the purpose of representation, and he doesn't really talk about the wokeness, right? It's the article that talks about the wokeness and makes the two synonymous. And I think by focusing on that, everyone's constantly concerned about woke. And that leaves, if you just focus on that, it leaves open the argument, well, Doctor Who was always woke. It was always, talking about, representation and this and that and blah, 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 and, progressive ideas and this and that. No, that's not what Russell Davies is talking about. He is talking about what the fans really have a problem with. Nobody had a problem with Captain Jack being pansexual or, gay characters in Torchwood or, even gay characters in Doctor Who. And honestly, a lot of you will be shocked. Most Doctor Who fans didn't have a problem with the Doctor being a woman either. The problem was the writing sucked. And when they completely destroyed canon with The Timeless Child, they killed Doctor Who. That's not about wokeness. That's about literally destroying the narrative of 60 years. And I believe that is what Russell Davies is referring to. Keep in mind, everybody, Russell Davies himself is a gay man. So he has no... And let's face it, he's also the one who created Torchwood and Captain Jack and all that I mentioned before, right? That representation and those kind of progressive ideologies aren't going to go away under him. But maybe he will do for Doctor Who what he did when he originally took over Doctor Who. Get it back on track. Maybe. But honestly,
no.
If that doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter what he says or what he does.
I don't know. I think the rot has set in. I mean, we'll see what he does. I'm not going to be watching it as it's on Disney Plus. So,
well, I won't be watching it until I hear that, he's decided to overturn the Timeless Child. If I don't hear that, then it's all a non-starter for me. All of it.
I mean, they overturned the whole big arc of the 50th anniversary was the Doctor saving Gallifrey. And then, of course, right. The Timeless Child means, Gallifrey was always bad, and they're all dead again anyway. And I'm like, what was the
And the
whole
Doctor
point
was never Gallifreyan to begin with, and there's no stakes because the Doctor has infinite regeneration, so none of this bullshit matters anymore. And, so unless they overturn that and it all turns out to all just be a big bullshit lie from the Master, which would make perfect sense narratively, I don't know what to tell you real quick. Say hi to Pacific 414 who stopped by to say hello. We are just wrapping up. We have one more article left ahead of us. But you can certainly rewind and listen to the rest of the stream. Please make sure that you are subscribed to Pacific 414's channel. He is a past guest on Last Call, and I am hoping to guest on his stream sometime very, very soon.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, welcome to the chat.
And, I guess I...
Post
now that I've mentioned the next article, I should actually
post it.
Drop the link, right?
Oh, let's beat a dead horse some more. All right. I'm referring to Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I'm rather salty about Tomb Raider right now, just so you know. One of the things that got destroyed in my flood were my nice 4-volume set of the Top Gal Tomb Raider comics from the 90s. Because originally they had released it as 1 volume and I missed it and I was cussing myself. So, I didn't get it when I had the chance. And then they did even better and they released 4 more volumes. And I was saying, you better buy these now because you know how much they hate old Lara Croft, the old school Lara Croft.
Yeah.
And I bought them. And then they got destroyed in the flood. So, and of course, now they're out of print and they're very expensive again. So we'll see if they get another reprint. I'm not hopeful. I didn't even get a chance to read them, which was annoying because apparently there was some very good writing in those old Tomb Raider comics, which would have been great for adapting into a series or a movie.
Which will never
whatever,
happen because it's now going to become Fleabag.
Amazon plans Tomb Raider franchise with new movie, game, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge produced TV series. Apparently, there is also a Netflix series in the works by the same animation studio that did that Castlevania series. And Haley Atwell is going to be doing the voice on that series. So I don't know if that got canceled because of this thing or if that's still going forward.
If it got canceled in favor of Fleabag, then it's just a travesty. Yeah. Because I would have loved to have seen that.
I could see Haley Atwell as Lara Croft, actually.
Yeah, not even as just a voice act. She totally could play Lara Croft.
I'm not going to say anything else on the matter, but yeah, I think she has the look. Okay, if you thought Amazon might not have enough money left after plowing through so much of it into Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power, you would be wrong. The company has once more splashed the cash for rich rights deal to develop movies, games, and TV series set in the Tomb Raider universe, including a show that has Phoebe Waller-Bridge attached to the right. That's a weird sentence.
Yeah. Again, editors, people, hire them.
I don't think they pay anybody at these sites. I think that's why you got so. Okay.
Well, it shows.
Word on the Waller-Bridge series broke the day before part of her extended deal with Amazon and Prime Video that sees her continuing to develop shows, including a mystery new title, an adaptation of bestseller Sign Here, and now the Tomb Raider series, of which she's reportedly a fan. The aim, according to the Hollywood Reporter, is to create a linked universe of movies, shows, and a new game featuring the adventurous Lara Croft. Waller-Bridge, though, is not yet directly involved with the movie, nor would she appear in the show. This all seemingly puts to rest any further speculation on the planned sequel to the 2018 reboot that starred Alicia Vikander and had popped up on the news radars but never seemed to concretely come together. I think Tomb Raider Lara Croft, it's a dead series franchise. I don't think it's coming back. I think it's been it's weird because Melanie Mack was on a stream I was hearing, and she was saying that in the 90s Lara Croft was a feminist icon. Now the feminists hate her.
Well, that's and you totally see the disconnect between second and third wave feminists, right? Because second wave feminists really did want equality, right? They just wanted fairness, right? And respect and so forth. And by and large, that battle was won. And now the regressive third wave is trying to undo that so that they can fight the whole battle over again.
Old Lara Croft was full of fun, adventurous Croft. Lara Croft reboot was gritty, visceral, traumatic trek. To be fair, I don't think the Lara Croft reboot, which I believe came from, was it 2010? The game reboot where they rebooted the series for the third time, or for the second time, because they did Legend, which I actually rather liked Legend. It was a reboot, but it was trying to be in the spirit of the original series. And then they did the 2010 Tomb Raider, which was more gritty. She was stranded on an island. She was younger and experienced. Still pretty, but less. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Less sexy. I think it was because they were embarrassed by the Uncharted series and they were trying to go for something more realistic. I guess probably the whole thing, like with the, like with what they did with Bond, what they did with Batman in the movies, they were trying to make her a little more serious. And then I heard the two sequels weren't up to par with the original, and I don't know. There have been comics which I haven't read, but I haven't heard people screaming about them. And we had the reboot movie with Alicia Vikander, which I watched, and which I think was based on the 2010 reboot, and I was bored by it. I'm sorry. It was an adventure movie that I was actually bored watching. I can't explain it. I didn't have a problem with her as an actress necessarily, but I just didn't think the movie worked. And we were supposed to get a sequel to that, which is never going to happen now, even though they said it was going to happen. Much like the much maligned Star Trek 4. And like I said, you have this Netflix series, which I assume is still happening. But now you have an integrated movie, game, television series universe that Amazon is planning. So I guess they own the game rights as well, even though I thought that Swedish company owned it. Is anything of this making sense to you right now?
I am recognizing the references, but I have no idea what's going on with it.
Remember that company that supposedly owned everything Lord of the Rings related, except that maybe they're working with them because Amazon also makes them. I don't know. None of this is making sense. I don't know about Waller-Bridge working on a Tomb Raider series.
I don't know about
does this mean Indiana Jones is safe?
I don't know about Waller-Bridge working in the entertainment industry, period.
Yeah, Helen in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 this summer.
Wow.
She's in it.
Okay.
Yes, so. But yeah, I don't know. I have no interest in this new Tomb Raider series unless they really know it's Haley Waller-Bridge. It's not going to happen. I want the old Lara Croft back. We're not going to get her back. You know what kills me about this? They're always screaming, we need a female James Bond. We need a female James Bond. You had a female James Bond. She was Lara Croft. Now, she's not a super spy, but she's an adventurer. She's an international woman of mystery. That's what I would call her. You had her, and you've thrown her away. That's what it feels like.
Yep. And they've done that because we are constantly pointing out examples of strong female characters, even superhero type characters that we've all loved that have done well, and they act like they never happened before. Again, it's what I'm saying. It's these third wave feminists that want to fight the battles all over again and pretend there was no one before them. It's like what's her name? Who's the one who said she was the first female superhero character? That's getting ripped apart in all the memes. You know who I mean? The Hunger Games chick.
I know. I'm looking her up. Hold on.
Somebody in chat's gonna get it.
See what happens when you're
Lawrence.
streaming.
Something Lawrence.
Yes.
Jennifer
Lawrence. There we go.
It's that same mentality. It's these dumb kids that don't bother to pay attention, and they're like, oh, I'm the first and I'm dealing with this, this inequality. And you got the second wave feminists going, bullshit. You have no idea what it was like and what we've done. We've come a long way, baby. And you're just, shitting all over that and pretending nothing ever happened.
What are you referring to? That sucks. You mean my Lost Tomb Raider comics? Yes.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Let's be honest. Comic collecting can be a pain in the butt, but when you can get everything in these nice big volumes and it's every issue, that's kind of cool. And then they get destroyed. And there was no saving them, trust me. There was mold even growing on them. It was disgusting. You can't save everything. That's what happens when you get flooded. You lose stuff. But I don't know. You never know. Maybe it'll get re-released in comic book form in 30 years. Because like I said, they hate the old Lara Croft now. I don't know why. I don't really know what it was. I guess because she was appealing to men as well as women. And if it's appealing to men, there must be something wrong with it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing I can think of, because she was an attractive character. But I don't like, even in the original Tomb Raider game, when she steps into the bathroom and is about to take a shower or something, and I think if you go peeking in as she's doing it, she says something nasty to you and shuts the door, so you can't see anything. Because they knew. I mean, she was always a respectable character in that light.
Yeah.
Too. So I don't really know what the problem is. So I don't know. I think because you had certain critics saying they just latched on to Tomb Raider being sexist early on. Even if the games change and make her and change her, they still will not let go of that bone. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that's why they have Phoebe Waller-Bridge working on it, because she's a feminist, right? So, I guess.
Well, again, a third wave feminist. She's not a real feminist.
All right.
She's a neo-Marxist, regressive, so-called feminist.
It's hard not to be a black pill. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
I get that.
Deleted scenes. We have Ghostbusters, another Ghostbusters sequel this Christmas. We have another Mission Impossible movie this summer. If you think back to the 80s, how many great big blockbusters did you get a year? Probably not a ton. I wish we had better, smaller movies come out, like comedies. Remember comedies in the 80s? Used to get a ton of them. But
not allowed to do comedies anymore, though, because they offend people.
I think eventually this will all right itself. I just don't know when it's going to happen. I think maybe by 2030. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kidding. We'll see. They need better creators by this stuff, though. All right, that's it. That's all she wrote. No more stories.
I just saw a meme. It says, "The reason my generation doesn't get offended," and it's stills from Sanford and Son, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Different Strokes, and Barney Miller.
Barney Miller. My dad loved Barney Miller.
I did too.
He was a police officer, and he said that it was the most accurate television series regarding police work.
I've heard that. I have heard that. Yeah.
H. Murray, you can get those Tomb Raider comics if you use the printer. Yes. Well, how much would that cost? And no, I had them all in these nice hard. It drives me nuts. I had them all. It's like you had finally gotten something that you've been wanting for a while, and then it just got taken away from you again. I mean, I guess it happens to everybody at some point in their life. But it's just, I wouldn't even care if I could go out and buy the volumes that they weren't costing hundreds of dollars now. And they're not that old. They're like from 2017. It was like when the first one was published. But what can you do?
Yep.
Hopefully, I don't trust who owns Tomb Raider right now. I think it's a bad egg. I've heard horrible rumors about this next Tomb Raider game they're working on. I've heard they're going to give her a female love interest.
I was just going to say, they're going to make her a lesbian. We know that.
Even though she liked men, according to the past games. She would even flirt on occasion. That thing. I don't know. I guess... I don't know. I think it's just over for Tomb Raider. I think it's either going to do well, which means more of the same crap, or it's going to do badly, and they're going to give up on the brand entirely. That's probably what's going to happen. So we'll see. All right. So what do we have coming up this week? I think I'm up first. I think I am on Wednesday evening with Soundtracks with Birdman. Special guest Eric Woods. We're going to be doing a rewatch of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Nice.
I figured he told me to pick 2 John Williams score movies and pick 2 Jerry Goldsmith score movies, and I figure we better do Last Crusade before this next indie movie comes out.
Yeah, right.
And ruins the experience later on for us watching it. Let's just knock that out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's it until Friday, correct?
Yeah. This is a kind of a slow week, I guess. Friday. It's like the third time I'm mentioning it. On Last Call on my channel, we'll get together with Joker Voice, and we'll get a little bit more into. I expect it to become a rant the more I drink. So, you might have fun if you just sit back and listen to me get hot.
You want to listen to you get hot, okay? I'll be curious to see here. What
hot, not in a good way. I mean,
no,
hot,
I'm
like
hot.
angry.
Yeah, angry. I got you. Yeah. Okay. You didn't say hot and bothered, so I didn't make that leap. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Saturday, what's going
on? Saturday, we are over on Big Al Presents Films with Friends. We will be doing a rewatch or watch party or whatever you want to call it of the Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Oh, that's the big one.
Yes, it is. So it was back. See, this was something they did in the 70s, especially with big budget sci-fi type series. They would do the pilot as a feature film.
Like Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica did this. Buck Rogers did this. I'm sure there were
Space
probably
1999 had a couple of features done
like
that too. Maybe
so what you do is you get the budget to do And this is Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica were direct responses to Star Wars. So they said, we want to do a series, but let's do a movie first so we can get the budget. Then we can get the special effects, we can get the ships, the sets, the costumes, all that kind of stuff, which we can reuse as the series goes. And when I say reuse, I really mean friggin' reuse, because all of your space battles were just stock footage from the movie.
Yes.
So, but we will check that out on Saturday over on Big L Presents. Of course, the link to watch along with us will be provided. The Cosme link will be in the chat. But again, especially with this one, I recommend. Not only am I recommending owning the physical media, don't just get the movie. Get the Blu-ray of the entire series, which does come with the original theatrical release of the pilot and the slightly different syndicated version of the pilot.
Oh, okay. And it all comes in that set, right?
Yep. Yes, it does.
Kino puts that out. I've been meaning to pick that up at some point. I did finally get the Battlestar Galactica 70 series on Blu-ray shortly before the disaster that happened with the hurricane. But that, oddly enough, made it out okay.
Wow.
What did I want to mention to you, though? You know what's funny, though? Friday night we had a discussion. You should check out Troy's stream. Deleted Scenes was on with us. We were discussing remakes. And you were asking me what movie I'd like to see remade. And I mentioned Network. But you know what series I think could be remade and done well with the right people? I think both of the Jerry Anderson series. I think both UFO and Space 1999 you could remake for a modern audience. I guess instead of Space 1999, it would be 2099. But, I think you could do some very interesting things with those if you got like good talent behind them. But that's just my thoughts. Yeah. Because Space 1999 is almost like Star Trek, but worse. Because no, everything's awful. Like they're stuck there and they're going through hostile. Like all the I think I read a review on a website like Teleport City, and it said like Space 1999. I don't think it was Aliens suck or something. Because a lot of the aliens they run into, they're either monstrous and want to kill them, or they're intelligent and want to kill them. Do you understand? It's like the humans keep running into problems with the aliens that they encounter while they're floating on the moon throughout solar systems.
They also had the benefit of being done by a British company in the 70s, which made it very Doctor Who-esque.
Not only that, but it's funny because I watch a lot of European movies of that era, and when I watch Space 1999 and UFO, I'm like seeing a who's who of British and European actors that were popular in like a lot of these B movies of the period. It's fascinating. Like one of the guys that was playing one of the regular pilots on Space 99, Space 1999, on UFO. He was playing one of the pilots on UFO. He played the Russian spy that gets shot by James Bond at the beginning of Spy Who Loved Me. You can tell it's the same actor.
There you go.
And it's just neat seeing all these little cameos by all these well-known actors of the period. But
it's just like you can watch Doctor Who, Blake 7, and Star Wars and look for all the actors that were in all of them.
Yeah.
The actors, the props, the costumes, sometimes carried over. Yeah.
Warhammer 40K solutions to kill all the aliens. Well, let's hope they leave Warhammer 40K until we're out of this current bad period of entertainment, and you get some.
Or maybe this is the same example as I was suggesting, where Henry Cavill needs to take production control of this thing, and actually do it right.
Yeah. I still have high hopes for this Conan and Solomon Kane series. This one production company is working on. They seem to be taking forever to come out. So they're being done independently, so that gives me hope they might be done well. All right. This was a good stream. I'll see y'all next week. And until then, something.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Good night, y'all.